Chapter 868. That demon from the Thousand World sect is here too. The eyes of everyone from the Thunder Saint Palace turned cold, and the hearts of everyone present trembled. A majestic and vigorous energy shockwave was like a meteor wrapped in clouds. It rubbed against the air at an astonishing speed, emitting a scorching high temperature. There seemed to be flames burning around it. Bang! In the next moment, the terrifying energy surged and crashed into the ancient monument where Han Ichuan was. The violent power shook the heavens and the earth, the mountains trembled, and the earth was restless. The majestic light wave was like a torrent that broke through a dam, and even the huge stone monument tilted to one side. Layers of cracks appeared on the ground. Rubble flew everywhere, and thousands of crushed stones flew like a swarm of locusts. Along with the chaotic airwaves, Han Ichuan was immediately sent flying. As he retreated, he smiled playfully and said, "Good thing I ran fast, or else I would have broken a few ribs. Han Ichuan, return the sacred blood fruit to me." Whoosh! Dust and smoke filled the air, rising from all directions. A clear and melodious voice that was pleasing to the ear like a silver bell entered everyone's ears, and then a petite and exquisite figure suddenly appeared in the sky. When Chu Hen, Luo Menchong, Long Xuanshuang, and the others saw this person, everyone from Mount Earth Lu and the mysterious ice sect was stunned. The other party was a little girl who was about 13 or 14 years old. She had fair skin and delicate and small facial features, like a beautiful jade porcelain doll. Her hair was tied into two fluffy buns, looking a little messy and cute. She gave people the feeling that she was the little Lolita next door that had not grown up yet. "Isn't this the one from 7-Star City?" "It's her." The people from Mount Earth Lu and the mysterious ice sect looked at each other. The last girl to come out of the Star Pagoda secret realm in 7-Star City was this person. Everyone clearly remembered that when she woke up in the secret realm, she looked at the corpses in 7-Star City and said calmly, "Another batch of people died." It was because of that sentence that everyone was speechless that she left a deep impression on them. However, they did not expect her to be from the Thousand World sect. Amidst the surprise, everyone calmed down a little. "We should have known." Lung Lingyan's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Her red lips parted slightly, and then she slowly said the other party's name. "Qiao Shaowan." Whoosh! Although many people had more or less guessed it in their hearts, their faces still revealed an unconcealable look of shock. "She's exactly as the rumors say. She looks like an angel, but she's extremely cruel." "Lower your voice. She's not called the violent little demon for nothing. If she hears us, we'll have our bones broken." "Violent little demon?" Hearing this weird name, Chu Hen couldn't help but feel a little funny. Although he had guessed that her background wasn't simple the first time he saw her, he couldn't connect her with the word brutal, no matter how hard he tried. However, based on the reaction of the people behind him, it was enough to show that this cute girl called Qiao Shaowan was not someone to be trifled with. "Who's badmouthing me?" Qiao Shaowan turned to look at Chu Hen. Everyone from Mount Kunliu and the Ice Mystic sect fell silent. Then, she looked at the Thunder Saint Palace. An annoying woman is here too." Roar! As soon as she finished speaking, the golden lion roar under Lei Jixin's feet let out a warning roar. Its huge eyes were filled with a frightening ferocity. "What are you roaring for? If you roar again, I'll skin you and make you into a coat," Qiao Shaowan scolded. The golden lion roar's mane stood on end, emitting a strong murderous aura. Lei Jixin lifted her eyelids and said indifferently, "Why is the Thousand World sect's head disciple arguing with an animal? Aren't you afraid of ruining your identity as Qiao Shaowan? Don't point at the mulberry tree and curse the locust tree. I'm not here to look for you today. If you have nothing to do, then take your animal to the side. If I hear it bark again, don't blame me for beating the dog without looking at its owner." It could be seen that the relationship between the province's three powerhouses was not very good. Lei Jixin was not angry about Qiao Shaowan's counterattack. she still showed a condescending and supercilious attitude. Qiao Shaowan did not argue with her. She continued to target Han Ichuan of the palace of Jihua. Bastard, give me back my sacred blood fruits. I say, little sister Wan, I only took 3 of your sacred blood fruits. Is there a need for you to chase after me, no, uncle, for 7 days and 7 nights? Han Ichuan said with a chuckle. Don't smile at me. Give it to me. Qiao Shaowan stretched out her fair little hand, like a child asking for candy from an adult. Of the 10 holy blood fruits, you took 7, and I only got 3. Can't you be more reasonable? Don't blame uncle for not reminding you. Eating too many sacred blood fruits will cause your true origin Violet Palace to explode. Moreover, were you the one who set the fire on the Purple Sky Mountain a month ago? You burned my unlucky senior and junior brothers. Don't tell me it has nothing to do with you. In the entire victorious Eastern State, there's no one else who possesses the heavenly traversing flame other than you. Han Ichuan's rambling made Qiao Shaowan completely furious. Shut up. Are you a chatterbox? Give me the sacred blood fruits. Buzz. Whoosh. After she finished speaking, Qiao Shaowan went berserk. A dense and gorgeous golden light surged out of her body as she charged toward her opponent angrily. Are you serious? Han Ichuan raised his eyebrows. Then, he put his palms together. Along with an extremely strange fluctuation of energy, a series of shadows separated from his body. If I don't make a move, people will think I'm afraid of you. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The fierce wind stacked up. In an instant, those separated shadows flashed and took shape like ghosts. They turned into clones that were exactly the same as Han Ichuan. The dozen clones were exactly the same, be it in terms of aura or appearance. The people present could no longer tell which was the real body. Immediately, the dozen or so Han Ichuan were like a pack of wolves pouncing on a lamb. Their astonishing aura was like a raging wave. Humph! Qiao Shaowan snorted lightly. An even more majestic true origin force quietly circulated. Following that, countless golden beams of light bloomed from behind her. The dazzling beams of light surged straight up, like incomparably sharp thorny vines. They were extremely fast, like the wind and lightning. Bang, 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 the fierce golden thorny vines pierced through the chests of the dozen or so Han Ichuans like divine light. However, without exception, all of the Han Ichuans exploded into a cloud of smoke. Not a single one was the real body. Swish. In the next moment, the sound of rushing wind came from behind Qiao Shaowan. I'm here. Sister Shaowan. What a fast speed. Everyone present expressed their shock. No one saw clearly how Han Ichuan got behind Qiao Shaowan just now. Buzz, buzz, one of Han Ichuan's hands turned into a palm blade, swallowing and spitting out rich true inner force. The sharp palm blade was comparable to a divine weapon that could cut through iron as if it were mud. It easily broke the true inner force shield outside Qiao Shaowan's body, as if it was cutting a piece of paper. However, when the cold palm blade was less than a finger's width away from Qiao Shaowan's body, he quietly disappeared from where he was. Han Ichuan's palm slashed through the air. The amazing palm momentum fell from the air and chopped down on the mountain wall below. Boom! The gravel collapsed, and half of the mountain top was shaved off. I'm here. Then, Qiao Shaowan's mocking voice came from above Han Ichuan. Han Ichuan looked up and saw Qiao Shaowan with a naughty smile on her face. Her middle fingers were interlocked, and an obscure and restless wave rapidly gathered and circulated at her fingertips. Then, her fingertips pointed downward, directly at Han Ichuan. Buzz, the space trembled, and a solid golden sword shadow swept out from her fingertips. It cut through the air and slashed at Han Ichuan. The latter's pupils shrank slightly, and he dodged sideways. The golden sword shadow almost brushed past Han Ichuan's right cheek as it cut through the air and hit the mountain ridge below heavily. Boom! With a muffled explosion, the entire mountain ridge was forcibly penetrated by the sword shadow from the north to the south. That was close, that was close. Han Ichuan touched his chest, looking scared. If you don't want to die, then return the sacred blood fruit to me. I've already eaten the sacred blood fruit. Do you want me to spit it out and give it to you? Then I'll kill you and drain your blood. Qiao Shaowan had no intention of letting go. She swore that she would not give up until Han Ichuan took back what he had. Han Ichuan looked like he was smiling mischievously, but as the top genius disciple of the palace of Jihua, he was not a simple character. The battle between the two became more and more intense. In the blink of an eye, the space trembled, the mountains and rivers shattered, and the rivers flowed in reverse. The appearance of the Thunder Saint Palace, the Palace of Jihua, and the Thousand World sect at the same time made the others gathered at the Great Path Cliff seem like mere foils. Even the people from the Valley of Innocence were almost forgotten. Shintu Etian hung alone on the cliff, covered in blood. His limbs hung limply, but his fierce eyes were filled with even more hatred and coldness. Lei Jixin from the Thunder Saint Palace sneered as she watched the battle between Han Ichuan and Qiao Shaowan. Then, she suddenly flipped her palm, and a deep blue silk pouch appeared in her palm. This pouch was very exquisitely made, and looked very luxurious and noble. Lei Jixin waved her hand, and the pouch flew out, bursting with blue light like the sun. The other party's action stunned Chu Hen. The pouch instantly floated above the Great Path Divine Stone fragment and rapidly grew in size. In the blink of an eye, it became 100 meters wide. Buzz from afar, the pouch looked like an enormous cosmos sack that could contain anything. The opening was facing downwards, and the rope was wide open. It could summon the wind and summon the rain, and swallow the mountains and rivers. Chapter 869. Hum, the giant pouch that seemed to contain everything face downwards. It opened its mouth wide, summoning the wind and summoning the rain, unleashing a force that could swallow mountains and rivers. The mountains, rivers, and earth trembled uneasily. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the fragment of the great Tao stone vibrated violently and rose into the air, slowly moving out of the ground. Even though it was only a fragment of the Great Path Divine Stone, its size was comparable to a mountain that was thousands of meters tall. It looked as if a pair of invisible giant hands had forcibly pulled the ancient monument out of the ground with a force that could break through thousands of kilograms. The majestic and forceful aura caused people to not dare to approach it at all. Bang! On the other side, Han Ichuan and the myriad world sects Qiao Shaowan were still fighting. Sparks flew everywhere and space trembled. Han Ichuan frowned and shouted, "Stop fighting, the great Tao stone is about to be taken by that woman." What does that have to do with me? Qiao Shaowan didn't show much interest in the ancient stone tablet. She attacked as she said, "If you don't want me to fight, give me back the sacred blood fruit. I'll give you 1. No, 3. Don't you know that those who see it have a share? I also found the sacred blood fruit. Why should it be yours? I found it first, so it's all mine. Go ahead and steal it. I'm stealing it right now." With that, Qiao Shaowan struck out with her palm. The vast palm energy was like a raging tsunami. After Han Ichuan dodged it, it razed the mountain below to the ground. She fully demonstrated the meaning of the title, Violent Demon Girl. In comparison, Han Ichuan fought more conservatively, attacking less and defending more. However, he always did as he pleased and showed no signs of being suppressed. Qiao Shaowan refused to give in, so Lei Jixin had a particularly smooth time collecting the fragment of the great Tao stone. Rumble, long and narrow cracks appeared on the ground. In an instant, the entire ancient monument left the ground and floated in the air. Looking at the stone tablet covered with ancient runes, Chu Hen, who was not far away, had a faint gleam in his eyes. In reality, it wasn't just the others. Chu Hen also attached great importance to the fragment. After pondering for a while, Chu Hen shook his head helplessly. Even though the Thunder Saint Palace only had 6 or 7 people, Their overall average cultivation level far surpassed that of Mount Kuan-Lu and the ice-profound sect. And that monstrous genius with the Thunder Soul sacred body, Lei Jixin, had probably reached the late stage of the 9th level of the Earth-profound realm, and was only a step away from the Sky-profound realm for the current Chu-Hen. He didn't want to provoke such an opponent. On top of that, there were two uncertain factors, Han Ichuan and Qiao Shaowan. Chu-Hen and the others were not enough to compete with them. The fragment of the divine stone of the Great Path was important, but he could only give it up. Boom! Then, the huge brocade pouch exploded with a brilliant deep blue light. Like a blue sun, the sky was dyed blue. An especially powerful suction force was released from it, and a tornado-like cyclone surrounded the entire stone tablet. The stone tablet let out a low rumble and was covered in a layer of faint blue light. Then, the stone tablet shrank rapidly, turned into a beam of light, and entered the brocade pouch. In less than 10 seconds, the majestic and imposing stone tablet had already disappeared, leaving only a huge pit in the ground after collecting the fragment. The blue silk brocade pouch also returned to its original size. It drew a shadow in the air and once again landed in Lei Jixin's palm. Looking at the brocade pouch in her hand, Lei Jixin's calm eyes finally rippled. But it was only a slight ripple. It seemed that in her eyes, very few things could move her. Prepare to leave. Chu-Hen turned to the side and said to Mount Kunliu and the people from the mysterious ice sect. There was no need to hope for the fragment of the divine stone of the Great Path anymore, and Yi Yao had been successfully rescued. Basically, the mission was completed successfully, and there was not much meaning in staying here. Then, Chu-Hen's eyes turned cold, and he looked directly at Shintu Etienne, who was nailed to the mountain wall by the blue ran sword. No matter what, the blue ran sword had to be retrieved. Roar! At this moment, the golden lion that the people from the Thunder Saint Palace had brought suddenly let out a low roar of joy. In the next moment, 3 figures flashed over. It's Miss Lan. The eyes of the people from the Thunder Saint Palace lit up. Even Lei Jixin's lips curled into a faint smile. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 figures landed on the broad back of the golden lion. The young woman walking in front immediately arrived in front of Lei Jixin, and intimately held her hands. Sister Jixin. Greetings, Miss Jixin. The 2 middle-aged men with steady auras behind her bowed respectfully. Lei Jixin raised her head slightly, and then said with a smile, "Seeing how happy you are, it seems like you've obtained the divine talisman spirit tree." "No!" Lei Xiaolan shook her head, and she could not help but feel a little down. "Someone beat us to it. When we passed the 4 kills of earthly heaven formation, the divine talisman spirit tree had already been taken away." "Oh." Lei Jixin was slightly surprised. She looked at the 2 middle-aged men behind Lei Xiaolan coldly. "You 2 can't even do this? What use do I have for you to enter the Thunder Saint Palace?" "Please forgive us, Miss Jixin." The 2 of them immediately knelt on the ground, and their faces were as pale as paper. The 2 of them were not official disciples of the Thunder Saint Palace, but attendants belonging to the side branches of the Thunder Saint Palace. To put it simply, when there was a lack of manpower, they could send guards at will. Even though the 2 of them were not weak, they were already middle-aged, and had encountered a very big bottleneck and obstacle on the path of the martial Tao. In order to complete their breakthrough, the 2 of them yearned for a chance to make a contribution to the Thunder Saint Palace. After entering the ancient desolate heaven territory, Lei Jixin ordered the 2 of them to assist Lei Xiaolan in obtaining the divine talisman spirit tree. Although the difficulty of this mission was not low, with Lei Xiaolan's attainments in the art of runes and the help of a few treasures, it was not difficult at all. After all, the information gathered by the Thunder Saint Palace was far from what other sects and forces could compare to. It was almost in the bag, but Lei Jixin did not expect that even this matter would be messed up. Naturally, Lei Jixin was angry. "All right, Sister Jixin, it has nothing to do with them. It's just that the person who beat us to it is too strong," Lei Xiaolan said. Lei Jixin's expression softened slightly. Miss Jixin, although we did not obtain the divine talisman spirit tree, we have a suspect. We have been following him for the past few days, one of the middle-aged men said hurriedly. Oh! Lei Jixin's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked at Lei Xiaolan and said, You have a suspect? Lei Xiaolan subconsciously looked in the direction of Mount Kunliu and the others. At this moment, Chu Hen was already walking towards Shintu Etian, ready to settle the grudge between them. It's just a suspicion. I've never confirmed it. Maybe it's not him. Lei Xiaolan said uncertainly. She had to admit that Chu Hen had given her many surprises during this period of time. From killing Li Wu of the Fong clan on the immortal prying platform to Xiao Mang of the Heavens Unified Dynasty, then, he bathed Seven Star City in blood, defeated Lu Tao of the Taiqing sect, Li Fengqing, and Gu Yongzhan of the Wind and Cloud Pavilion, and now, he defeated Shintu Etian of the Innocence Valley. It was hard to imagine that someone from Mount Kunliu, a second-rate force, would have such terrifying ability. Even though the Thunder Saint Palace's strength was outstanding and was a major force in the prefecture region, Lei Xiaolan did not want to become enemies with a genius like Chu Hen who possessed great potential. If possible, she would rather recruit him into the Thunder Saint Palace. However, this was only Lei Xiaolan's idea. Lei Jixin's gaze did not waver at all. She looked at Chu Hen for the first time and said indifferently, Lei Xiong, verify it. Yes, Senior Sister Xian. A deep voice answered, and a young man with a sharp gaze walked out from behind Lei Jixin. Hiss, accompanied by a light rustling sound, a small and exquisite white snake actually crawled out from behind the man's shoulder. But what was different from ordinary snakes was that there was a single horn on its head, and there were two faint claws protruding from its abdomen. White Dragon, sense the Reiki energy attribute in that person's Naiwen Palace, heh? The small white snake let out a soft cry. Then, it opened its eyes wide and shot out a circle of obscure and dark ripples. Space began to vibrate in a strange rhythm, like ripples on the surface of water. Chu Hen looked coldly at Shintu Etian in front of him. He raised his left palm and gathered his true essence. The blue ran sword that was nailed to the latter's chest let out a low hum. Shintu Etian gritted his teeth and his eyes turned scarlet. If you dare to touch me, I will bury the entire Mount Kunliu with me, then come. Chu Hen replied indifferently, and a biting cold sword aura spread out. But just at this time, with a whung sound, Chu Hen's body instantly shook, and a slight dizziness surfaced in his head. A strand of invisible force like the tip of a needle pierced into his Naiwen Palace, instantly causing the spiritual energy to become chaotic. What's wrong? When Luo Mengchang, Long Xuanshuang, and the others saw this, they hurriedly rushed to Chu Hen's side to ask. Chapter 870. Absolute Celestial Talisman Power. The Celestial Talisman Spirit Tree is on him. Lei Xiong spoke with incomparable determination. The little white snake with a long horn on his shoulder began to emit an extremely restless aura of spirit energy. Lei Xiaolan was stunned, but at the same time, she wasn't too surprised. After all, Chu Hen was the only person she suspected. Roar! In the next moment, the golden lion roar opened its huge mouth. Along with an incomparably scorching wave of air, a golden fireball shot out from its mouth. It whistled straight towards Chu Hen's location. What's going on? The sudden confrontation caused the people from Mount Kunliu and Ice Mystic sect to turn pale with fright. They were caught unprepared. Big brother Chu Hen, be careful! Yi Yao couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Chu Hen, who was standing beside Luo Mengchang and Long Xuanshuang, raised his eyelids and subconsciously pulled the two girls behind him. Then, a dense silver light erupted from his body and countless powerful astral cyclones gathered and flowed in his left palm. A ball of energy appeared in his hand. Merak kill. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen directly threw out the spiral energy sphere in his palm. The Merak energy sphere rapidly enlarged, and the enormous power was tightly compressed together, causing the surrounding space to violently fluctuate. Bang! An extremely heavy and earth-shattering sound directly exploded in the air. The golden fireball and the silver astral sphere collided head-on. The terrifying energy that burst forth in that instant was like an exploding sun. The aftermath of the vast and mighty heat wave swept out, and the biting cold and powerful airflow wantonly leaked out. Everyone from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect had solemn and confused expressions. "What is the meaning of this, Miss Lei?" Lung Lingyan immediately stood up and asked. However, Lei Jixin didn't even look at Lung Lingyan. Her aloof attitude was like the difference between a noble and a commoner. She looked at Chu Hen indifferently, her voice calm and indifferent. "You've hidden it quite well, but in front of me, it's useless no matter how well you hide." Everyone was even more confused when they heard this. Even the remaining people from Wuang Valley were full of doubts. What was he trying to do? However, this was exactly what the people of Innocence Valley wanted to see. Especially Shintu Etienne, who gritted his teeth and had a ferocious look on his face. Chu Hen frowned and replied in a low voice, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" Lei Jixin's tone carried a trace of provocation. Soon after, she ordered in an irresistible tone, "If you want to leave alive, hand over the divine symbol spirit tree. Immortal talisman spirit tree Hua." Upon hearing these words, Chu Hen's pupils suddenly shrank. Everyone else present was shocked as well, and their gazes surged with astonishment one after another. The other party actually obtained a treasure like the immortal talisman spirit tree? Chu Hen's gaze unconsciously swept towards Lei Xiaolan and the others behind Lei Jixin. Chu Hen had seen the three of them at the immortal prying platform previously. Even though Lung Lingyan had told him that Lei Xiaolan was very likely to be from the Lightning Saint Palace, they had never had any direct contact with each other. It was true that Chu Hen had obtained the immortal talisman spirit tree, but the truth was that the immortal talisman spirit tree that Lei Xiaolan was looking for had been taken away by Shifeng Zi. The immortal talisman spirit tree that Chu Hen had obtained was the other tree in the depths of the four deaths of Earth-Heaven formation. If the other party really wanted to look for it, they should look for Shifeng Zi. Chu Hen immediately felt as if he had been made a scapegoat by accident. However, it was undeniable that Chu Hen had indeed obtained the immortal talisman spirit tree. At the same time, Chu Hen did not expect that Lei Xiaolan and the others had been secretly following them from the moment they left the immortal prying platform. Up until the moment the three of them appeared, Chu Hen actually did not think in this direction. However, the truth was just so coincidental. Explaining was definitely futile. Even if they believed in the existence of Shifeng Zi, it was impossible for them to search for him in the vast sea of people. There was an immortal talisman spirit tree right in front of them, so why would they think about the one that was far away? "I'm very sorry, Miss Lei." Chu Hen calmed the ups and downs in his heart, and his tone was modest and polite. "The immortal talisman spirit tree has already fused with my street tree and can no longer be separated. I hope you won't make things difficult for me. I have no reason to listen to you. I only want the immortal talisman spirit tree," Lei Jixin replied indifferently. Upon hearing this, Luo Mengchang and Long Xuanshuang, who were behind Chu Hen, could not stand still. The latter replied coldly, "Since it's the Thunder Saint Palace, it should have the demeanor of a large sect. Your actions are no different from forceful robbery." Lei Jixin continued to ignore Long Xuanshuang like how she ignored Lung Lingyan. "I don't like to repeat myself. I'll say it again. Leave the immortal talisman spirit tree behind, then you can leave." Her cold and aloof tone did not allow for rejection. This was clearly an order. She was going too far. Chu Hen's face was covered in a cold frost. The immortal talisman spirit tree had already fused with the street tree. If he forcefully separated the immortal talisman spirit tree, it would definitely cause irreversible damage to the street tree. At that time, not only would Chu Hen's attainments in the art of runes be reduced to zero, even his mental strength might be injured. Once his mental strength was injured, he was no different from a useless person. This kind of consequence was something no one could bear. Lei Jixin's behavior of treating other people's lives as worthless made Chu Hen very unhappy. Her arrogance was truly infuriating. However, in Lei Jixin's eyes, the anger displayed by Chu Hen was like the anger of a commoner. "Looks like you want to disobey me?" "Disobey?" Chu Hen sneered. "Unfortunately, I'm not your dog. To me, your orders are simply ridiculous and laughable." "Impudent! You bandits dare to be disrespectful to Miss Xian?" Whoosh! In an instant, the two middle-aged men standing behind Lei Xiaolan shouted at the same time, and a powerful aura exploded towards Chu Hen. "Miss Xian and Miss Lan, don't worry. We'll bring the immortal talisman spirit tree and offer it to you since they failed to obtain the immortal talisman spirit tree on the immortal prying platform. This was the perfect opportunity for them to redeem themselves." Clang, thunder, and lightning crisscrossed as the two released the power of wild lightning from their bodies. One on the left and one on the right, they aimed for Chu Hen's life. "We were just talking about dogs, and here comes two. Eat this marshal's sword." Mu Feng, Haozi, and the rest did not hesitate. One by one, they rose into the air and flew towards the two. Bang! The sword light that was mixed with lightning burst forth, and layers of ripples appeared in the air. The two of them were directly intercepted midway. The Thunder Saint Palace members sneered as they watched the Mount Kunliu group make a big fuss. "It's been a long time since anyone dared to challenge the dignity of our Thunder Saint Palace. Hee, and a second-rate faction at that. How interesting! Since that's the case, let's start a massacre today." Chapter 871. Since that's the case, let's start a massacre today. A cold and disdainful smile appeared on the faces of the people from the Thunder Saint Palace. In their eyes, the people from Mount Kunliu were just a bunch of lowly rabble. Dazzling rays of lightning erupted from their bodies as they charged forward. They were like ferocious tigers that had charged into a pack of wolves. Thunder Illusion Fist. The heavy fist was like a mountain crashing down. A fist that was engulfed in the power of lightning smashed toward Mu Feng's head. Mu Feng's heart skipped a beat. He raised the Buddha Devil Sword and slashed at his opponent. Bang! Sparks flew in all directions. Mu Feng felt his arm go numb. The blue light on the sword surged violently, and the Devil's Sword almost flew out of his hand. "You actually blocked it?" The man from the Thunder Saint Palace looked at Mu Feng in surprise. "Not bad. You're qualified to make me use 80% of my strength," Mu Feng smiled. This was really a compliment that made him speechless. He clenched his fist, and a flame like true origin surged into the sword. "Son of AB*TCH, if you don't fly into the sky today, it'll be a waste of your bragging. Humph, you're courting death. You're afraid of my balls." The battle became even more intense as their words clashed. Mu Feng raised the Buddha Devil Sword and circulated the true origin in his body. He did not show any signs of weakness as he clashed head-on with the man from the Thunder Saint Palace. In the blink of an eye, both sides were engaged in a chaotic battle. The people from the Ice Mystic sect stood aside and did not make a move. "What should we do? Senior brother Li Su?" "I don't know." The young man called Li Su also had a pained expression on his face. After all, just the 3 words Thunder Saint Palace was enough to make any sect tremble in fear, even if they disregarded their own lives. What would happen after they left the ancient desolate heaven realm? If the Thunder Saint Palace pursued the matter, the consequences would be unbearable for the Ice Mystic sect. It was true that the people from the Ice Mystic sect obeyed Long Xuanshuang's orders, but they had to carefully weigh the factors that would endanger the sect. "Make your move." After some inner torment and hesitation, Li Su finally made a decision. "But..." The other disciple was a bit fearful. "There are no buts. If something happens to Senior Sister Long, we won't have the face to return. If the Thunder Saint Palace really wants to pursue this matter, I will take all the responsibility and die as an apology. It was undeniable that Li Su was a very hot-blooded man. It was not his wish to stand here and watch. Immediately, everyone from the mysterious ice sect no longer hesitated. One by one, they released their dense and powerful ice attribute true origin energy and joined the battle. Another group of ants who are not afraid of death. An expert from the Thunder Saint Palace sneered. Then, with a flip of his palm, his aura surged. The sky above the 9 heavens immediately darkened. Along with the sound of rolling thunder, a huge hand of lightning descended from the sky. Like a huge net, it smashed towards the people from the mysterious ice sect, rushing thunder palm. Boom! As the violent and terrifying palm force descended, everyone from the Ice Xian sect released the true yuan within their bodies to resist. Continuous violent explosions overlapped with each other, and endless pillars of lightning instantly bloomed like a rain of fireworks. The people from the Ice Xian sect, who were caught off guard, were forced to retreat by this palm strike. Apart from Li Su and a few others with high cultivation who could still stabilize their bodies, the rest only felt their blood and qi surge, and their faces turned pale. "You can't even take one of my palms, why did you come to die?" The man sneered. Whoosh! As soon as the words left his mouth, a beautiful figure that was as cold as ice and peerless beauty attacked. A cold palm force caused space to crack. The man raised his thick eyebrows and struck out with a backhand palm. Bang! Cold air raged and ice danced in the air. The man was actually forced to take a few steps back. Seeing that the person who had arrived was a young and elegant woman, the person from the Thunder Saint Palace grinned. "Not bad, this is more like it." As soon as he finished speaking, his aura surged. Surrounded by lightning patterns, he attacked Long Xuan. Once the chaotic battle broke out, mountains and rivers were destroyed, and the sky darkened. "You. Tell me your name." "I, Lei Ting, don't kill nameless people." A man with a powerful figure, as sturdy as a mountain, charged straight at Chu Hen. He was aggressive like a thunder beast that exuded a dangerous aura. Chu Hen raised his eyes and replied coldly. "Never heard of you." "Very good, this is the first time someone has said such words to me." Just like his name, Lei Ting's entire body exuded a thunderous aura. Zap, zap, frenzied arcs of electricity coursed through his entire arm. He raised his arm, and with a momentum that pierced through the rainbow, a violent destructive force was unleashed in its entirety. However, Chu Hen did not move even half a step, and also punched out. Like thousands of birds letting out loud cries, countless black lightning bolts immediately shot out from Chu Hen's arm. Clang! The silver lightning and black lightning collided with each other, and in an instant, a blinding light exploded like the sun in the sky. Intense light ripples and lightning glow spread out, causing the space to tremble violently. Both of them were forced back by the extremely strong rebounding force. However, Chu Hen only retreated less than 5 meters before he stabilized his body. Lei Ting, on the other hand, retreated about 10 meters. His eyes were wide open, and a hint of anger surged between his brows. Not only did such a powerful punch not defeat Chu Hen, but it did not even manage to gain the upper hand. To him, it was a little surprising. On the other side, Han Yichuan from the Zhihua Palace and Qiao Shaowan from the Thousand World sect were still locked in battle. The former was obviously a busybody, and when he saw that there was a fight going on, he immediately became interested. Not bad. The people from Mount Kunliu are going to turn the sky upside down this time. They even dare to provoke Lei Zhixin. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with me? Qiao Shaowan said disdainfully. Han Yichuan spread out his defense and dodged. Are you interested in helping Mount Kunliu? I feel that this sect is going to rise in the future, so I should sell them a favor now. Don't play tricks, I only want the sacred blood fruit. Qiao Shaowan did not care about anything else. In her opinion, Han Yichuan was just saying. After all, other than Gong Yangyu, there was nothing else worth remembering about Mount Kunliu. Buzz! Qiao Shaowan attacked with her palm, and the force of the 3,000 lightning haste was like a tidal wave. Han Ichuan blocked it with his strength and slid back like a swallow. He then shrugged and shook his head, looking regretful and unserious. Chapter 872. Boom. Bang. The intense battle triggered the 3,000 lightning haste. The Thunder Saint Palace's overbearing attitude caused Chu Hen to retaliate. Although there were less than 10 people from the Thunder Saint Palace, each of them was as fierce as a tiger and as powerful as a dragon. Even though they were outnumbered, they were still able to suppress the people from Mount Kuan-Lu and the Ice Profound sect. The gap between a giant force and an ordinary sect was as clear as day. However, the ones who were truly surprised were the people from the Thunder Saint Palace. From the beginning, they did not take Chu Hen, Long Xuanxuang, and the others seriously at all. In fact, they had been ignoring them. To the people of the Thunder Saint Palace, the other side was just a bunch of trash. It would definitely be a massacre. It wouldn't take long for the battle to end, however. The truth was, they had greatly underestimated the strength of the people from Mount Kuan-Lu. Apart from Chu Hen, who had single-handedly killed Shintu Yi Tian, Long Xuanxuang and Luo Mengshang had the cultivation base to contend with Lu Tao from the Tai Ching sect and Gu Yongzhan from the Wind and Cloud Pavilion. Mu Feng, Haozi, and Leng Lingyan were also able to hold their own. Coupled with Yi Yao, who had just evolved her bloodline to the Tai Chi Saint Body, how could this powerful team of new students be defeated so easily? Naturally, the Thunder Saint Palace's strength was undeniable. Lei Jixin and Lei Xiaolan, who were on the Golden Lion Mantis, had yet to make a move. Roar! The Golden Lion Mantis let out a deep roar as its hot breath gushed out like 2 pillars of fire. Lei Jixin looked down at the battle in front of her calmly. She did not seem emotional at all. Sister Jixin, why don't we just forget about it? At this moment, Lei Xiaolan suddenly said. Oh! Lei Jixin's eyelids twitched as she replied indifferently, You don't want the Celestial Talisman Spirit Tree anymore? I do want to, but our Thunder Saint Palace is one of the 3 major powers in the province after all. If news of this were to spread, it would be hard to avoid people saying that we're bullying the weak. Lei Jixin remained calm. All these years, have you ever heard anyone speak ill of our Thunder Saint Palace? Lei Xiaolan shook her head. There hasn't been any in the past, and there won't be any in the future. Because of the fear the people have towards the Thunder Saint Palace, no one dares to criticize us in front of our faces. As for those who offend or even provoke us, we can't give them the slightest bit of indulgence. What we need to do is to let them know that the consequences of challenging our Thunder Saint Palace is not something anyone can bear. Lei Jixin's voice and expression were fearful. She was as calm as the Empress who was announcing the imperial edict. In her opinion, Chu Hen's group had already been sentenced to death. Lei Xiaolan pursed her lips and did not try to persuade her any further. She knew Lei Jixin's character very well. Not everyone could anger her. By the way, Sister Jixin, where's Brother Mingho? He has already gone to the Black Kshetra region. Ah? Was he alone? Will Brother Mingho be in danger? Lei Xiaolan asked worriedly. The corner of Lei Jixin's mouth curled up into a smile. Don't worry. Your Brother Mingho will be able to handle it. But the Black Kshetra region is the most dangerous forbidden area in the ancient desolate heaven domain. Brother Mingho is alone? Wait. Could it be that Brother Mingho has already reached? Lei Jixin nodded without waiting for Lei Xiaolan to finish speaking. Lei Xiaolan's eyes immediately lit up. As expected of Brother Mingho, it looks like the Black Kshetra Divine Thunderheart won't be able to escape from his hands. However, the Black Kshetra Divine Thunderheart is the most sacred item in the world. There are many people who covet it, so there are still many variables. As Lei Xiaolan spoke, she subconsciously glanced at Xiao Shaowan and Han Ichuan, who were a few kilometers away. The Myriad World Sect and the Palace of Jihua were the main competitors of the Thunder Saint Palace. At that time, there was no guarantee that a head-on conflict would not break out. Lei Jixin, on the other hand, had a calm expression as a faint light flashed across her eyes. No matter who it is, they won't be able to stop the footsteps of the Thunder Saint Palace. Boom! The battle between the two sides became more and more intense, shocking the heavens. The people of the Thunder Saint Palace were like fierce tigers that had charged into a pack of wolves, continuously attacking fiercely. Fortunately, there were Long Xuanshuang, Luo Mengchang, Mu Feng, Qi Zhang, and other experts as the main force. As the two sides fought, the Thunder Saint Palace did not have much of an advantage. On the side of Mount Kunliu and the Ice Xian sect, only a few people were injured. However, Lei Jixin, who had yet to make a move, was still a great threat. Chu Hen secretly thought of a way to deal with her. He had to consider whether to continue fighting or to prepare to retreat. Now I believe that you didn't rely on luck to defeat Shintu Etian. Lei Ting's tone was stern. His shock towards Chu Hen grew greater and greater. At the same time, an even more shocking aura erupted. You have the right to make me use my full strength. Humph! Chu Hen coldly laughed. His figure suddenly swept out, and like an eagle soaring through the sky, he attacked his opponent. What a pity! You don't even have the qualifications to make me use 70% of my strength. Arrogant to the extreme. Lei Ting's face darkened as he roared angrily. In the entire victorious East State, there were not many people who did not know of Lei Ting's name. Among the entire younger generation of the Thunder Saint Palace, Lei Ting's talent and strength were only weaker than Lei Jixin and Lei Mingho. However, the dignified third strongest person of the Thunder Saint Palace was actually provoked and looked down upon by a mere nobody. This instantly made him furious. Within 3 moves, I will make you kneel on the ground and not be able to get up. Chi. A strong and magnificent lightning pillar spread out from Lei Ting's body. The space trembled as Lei Ting stretched out his hand and attacked through the air. Whoosh! In an instant, a lightning pillar that was a few meters wide exploded out from the center of his palm. The majestic lightning pillar was like a lightning dragon swinging its head and tail. Countless densely packed lightning arcs split off from its entire body. It pierced through the air and swept up a dense aura of destruction as it headed towards Chu Hen, who was charging towards it head-on. Zeng! Chu Hen was fearless as the dazzling Tianai saber appeared in his hand. The similarly violent dark lightning energy crawled onto the saber and formed a layer of lightning patterns. Chu Hen held the saber in a backhand grip and attacked head-on. Bang! The lightning shadow splashed and silver and black ripples blossomed like fireworks. The rhythm of Chu Hen's movements never stopped. The swift and fierce heaven's karma blade forcibly split the sturdy lightning in half. The bolts of lightning flew back from both sides of Chu Hen at lightning speed. In an instant, the entire shocking lightning pillar was forcefully split by Chu Hen. First move, Chu Hen said coldly. Lei Ting's eyes widened as he looked at Chu Hen, who was already in front of him, with a fierce expression. You're courting death. Rumbling wind and thunder attacked, and the wind and clouds roared. Lei Ting's body shone brightly, and the rapidly moving thunder shadows gathered in his palm, forming a sharp thunder blade. The lightning blade seemed to have grown out of his palm bone, and its entire body was flowing with a cold radiance. A series of light shadows appeared in the air as it slid towards Chu Hen's neck. Buzz! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a dense black radiance appeared around his body. The strength of his true inner force became extremely domineering. The power of the chaotic body surged out. The space in front of him distorted violently as a cold black arm reached out. Buzz! In an instant, the lightning bone blade in Lei Ting's palm came to a stop when it was less than 5 centimeters away from Chu Hen's neck. Lei Ting's pupils trembled as the black arm that appeared out of nowhere gripped his wrist firmly like a pair of iron pincers, rendering him immobile. The second move. Chu Hen stared into Lei Ting's eyes as his lips curled into a disdainful smile. For some reason, Lei Ting felt an indescribable palpitation when he met Chu Hen's gaze. He did not know where this palpitation came from, but it made him feel uneasy. What a joke! Lei Ting was furious as silver lightning flickered in his eyes. The blood vessels on his arms and forehead bulged, and a violent aura that was like a volcanic eruption immediately surged out from his body, heart-piercing lightning formation. Rumble, the sky was illuminated by a blinding light as a deafening boom reverberated in everyone's ears. In an instant, countless streaks of lightning that looked like thorny vines erupted from Lei Ting's body. The black arm that was gripping Lei Ting's wrist was shattered. Streaks of sharp electric blades stretched out in all directions, like a large net that had been opened. Swoosh! Chu Hen's figure leapt, and with a backflip, he dodged the incoming fierce lightning blades. He also allowed the other lightning powers to strike his body, and then, with a speed that was as fast as lightning, he extended his left palm. A shocking, majestic force gathered in Chu Hen's palm. The power of thousands of stars spun like a whirlwind and condensed into a ball of extremely dense energy. Chapter 873. Just 3 moves. I won't be sending you off, Buzz. The powerful and majestic power of the stars gathered in Chu Hen's palm like a whirlwind and rapidly compressed into a ball of energy with a shocking power density. Chu Hen allowed the rampaging lightning vines to strike his body. With lightning speed, he pressed the condensed energy ball in his palm towards Lei Ting's chest. The violent aura was like a mountain pressing down on him. Lei Ting's expression changed abruptly as his eyes widened in shock. Bang! A violent explosion reverberated in all directions in the void. The electric light net around Lei Ting's body was instantly smashed into pieces. The high-speed rotating ball of star power was firmly imprinted in the center of Lei Ting's chest. Lei Ting let out an enraged and panicked scream as his tall and mighty body was smashed into a crooked shape. It was as if a dam had been breached by the torrent of power. Lei Ting let out an enraged and panicked scream. The clothes in front of his body were torn into pieces as his chest caved in. Along with the sound of his sternum breaking, Lei Ting spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Then, like a falling cannonball, he crashed into a mountain with a boom sound, causing a mountain to collapse. 3 moves. I won't send you off. Wow! A powerful aura gushed out from Chu Hen's body, instantly suppressing the entire battlefield. He held the Tianai saber with one hand as if he was the king of the world. So what if you're from the Thunder Saint Palace? How domineering! My brother! Han Ichuan from the Zhihua Palace couldn't help but shake his head and praise Lei Ting. Qiao Shaowan from the Thousand Worlds sect couldn't help but take a few more glances at Chu Hen. She thought to herself, this person is quite impressive. Lei Jixin, that woman, is probably going to flip out. In about 10 seconds, the outcome of the battle had been decided. Everyone from the Thunder Saint Palace was extremely surprised. Even Lei Jixin, who was on the back of the Golden Lion Ho, narrowed her eyes as a hint of coldness flashed across her eyes. The third person from the Thunder Saint Palace declared that he would make Chu Hen kneel in 3 moves. In the blink of an eye, the words that lingered in everyone's ears had become a great mockery. Looking at Lei Ting, who was trapped in the rubble, the morale of the people from Mount Kuan-Lu and the mysterious ice sect could not help but soar. Each and every one of them revealed excited expressions. Boom! However, it was also at this moment that a surging wave suddenly attacked from the other side of the sky. More than a dozen figures exuding a gloomy and ruthless aura were like a flock of eagles soaring through the sky, sweeping up a cold killing intent as they charged over. Surnamed Chu, hand over your life. The deep voice was as deafening as thunder. However, this voice was extremely unfamiliar. He was certain that he had never heard it before. That person was dressed in a gorgeous imperial robe, and his hair was tied up in a white jade crown, fully displaying the nobility of the royal family. It's Xiao Lin from the Heaven Unified Dynasty. Lung Lingyan reminded with a hint of unease in her tone. As expected, Chu Hen quickly saw Xian Gu and Bai Nian among the group of people who had just arrived. They were 2 familiar figures. During the battle on the immortal prying platform, Chu Hen mercilessly killed Xiao Mang from the Heaven Unified Dynasty, and Xian Gu, Bai Nian, and a few others were fish that escaped the net. Furthermore, before Xiao Mang died, he had left behind some ruthless words, saying that someone would definitely avenge him. However, unexpectedly, the people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty actually found their way here. The situation suddenly became extremely passive. The morale that had risen after defeating Lei Ting in 3 moves was instantly suppressed again. Looks like we came at the right time. Xiao Lin looked at the chaotic situation in front of him with a sinister smile on his face. You're the one who killed Xiao Mang? Chu Hen slightly tightened his grip on the saber, and from the corner of his eye, he glanced at Lei Jixin, who still had a calm expression on her face. He had to stabilize the situation before she made a move. Otherwise, it would definitely be extremely troublesome. If you don't want to die, then scram, Chu Hen shouted. His slightly thin and slender body seemed to hide a frightening and ferocious tiger. Xian Gu, Bai Nian, and the others who had seen Chu Hen before were secretly shocked. After not seeing him for a few days, Chu Hen's cultivation had increased by quite a bit. The corner of Xiao Lin's mouth curled into a sneer. Then let's see if you have the ability to make me scram. Buzz! Without saying much, the people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty directly exploded with a strong killing intent and went straight for Chu Hen. When enemies met, their eyes were exceptionally red. One after another, sharp figures unsheathed their sharp blades and went straight for Chu Hen's vital points. If we don't tear you into pieces today, we won't be able to vent the hatred in our hearts. I will use your blood as a sacrifice to senior brother Xiao Mang's soul. Die! The crisscrossing sword shadows flew towards Chu Hen like a large net. Looking at the menacing crowd, Chu Hen revealed a disdainful expression. He poured a steady stream of true origin energy into the blade, causing the beautiful blade patterns to blossom like a divine rainbow. With a swing of the blade, the resplendent blade light traversed hundreds of meters like the sky was illuminating the vast sky. Boom! The powerful blade light was unstoppable. It directly shattered the sword shadows that filled the sky and continued to attack the people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty. Although they could see that Chu Hen's strength had increased by a lot, they still underestimated the opponent's strength. The blade light was like a long rainbow, continuously striking in front of the crowd. Each of them felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Their bodies trembled and they were sent flying back. Xiao Lin, who was in the back, had a cold look in his eyes as his killing intent appeared. A series of afterimages flickered in the void. With a palm that could push a mountain, the vast true origin energy was like a raging tsunami that crushed towards Chu Hen. Xiao Lin's cultivation was far from what Xiao Mang, who had died in Chu Hen's hands, could compare to. The former's true origin energy was a bit stronger than Lei Ting's. His strength was already close to the 9th level of the Earth Profound Realm. Shintu Etian was first, then Lei Ting, and now Xiao Lin. All the famous geniuses in the province took turns to fight. For Chu Hen, this was truly a difficult test. However, since the matter had already fallen on him, he could only take it on. Buzz! The Tianai blade swallowed and spat out powerful silver flowing shadow ripples. Chu Hen's body flew up like a swordfish facing a huge wave. The bitingly cold blade energy rose up, and a bunch of condensed blade shadows swept up, splitting apart the wind and the waves, directly splitting apart the boundless wave of true essence. Xiao Lin frowned. He also attached some importance to Chu Hen. Especially after seeing Lei Ting, who had been defeated, and Shintu Etian, who had been nailed to the stone wall by the blue ran sword, he had already re-evaluated Chu Hen's battle strength. Whoosh! A heavy wave of air trembled as Xiao Lin extended his right palm towards Chu Hen. Dense true origin energy intertwined, forming a manic light wave that was over 2 meters long. In the next moment, the light wave immediately became incomparably condensed, turning into a heavy golden halberd. The heavy halberd's body was covered in golden flames, and both sides of the halberd were embedded with crescent-shaped curved blades, giving off an intimidating and domineering aura. This square saint halberd is an item on the same level as the draining god spear. Both are treasures of my heaven-unified dynasty. Hand it over and I'll leave your corpse intact. Humph! Chu Hen sneered and instantly arrived in front of his opponent. He raised the Tianai blade and slashed at his opponent. I'm very sorry to tell you that the item in your hand is no longer worthy of being on the same level as the draining god spear. The wind whistled as the Tianai blade slashed down. The corner of Xiao Lin's eyes turned cold as he blocked with the square saint halberd. Bang! The blade and halberd clashed, causing the space to tremble. Chapter 874. I'm very sorry to tell you that the scrap in your hand is no longer worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as the draining god spear. Clang! The saber and halberd collided, causing space to tremble and a shock wave to spread out. Along with a deafening sound, sparks flew everywhere, and the golden flames covering the halberd were pushed back to the sides. Xiao Lin was pushed back several meters by Chu Hen's saber. The qi and blood in Xiao Lin's body were faintly agitated and his arms were numb. Coldness surged in Xiao Lin's eyes as he stared at the heaven's blade in Chu Hen's hands with a shocked expression. As far as he knew, the Tianai saber did not have such power. Boom! Suddenly, at this moment, the mountain ridge on the other side suddenly split into two and collapsed from the middle like a city wall that had been smashed by a wild beast. Then, a strong and violent murderous aura surged over like a flood. 7 or 8 giants with the power to split the mountains and split the earth pounced over. Each of the giants was more than 100 meters tall, and the tallest one was almost 100 meters tall. They had sharp claws on their hands and feet like wild beasts. They were the Fang clan with the Ho bloodline. Those who kill my clansmen will be torn into 10,000 pieces. Roar! The Fang clan's ferocious eyes revealed a ferocious glint. Without saying a word, they raised a monstrous murderous aura and charged toward the people from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect. Not good. Long Xuanshuang, Lung Lingyan, Mu Feng, Danzhen, and the people from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect were all shocked. There was a pack of wolves in front of them and a ferocious tiger behind them. They were already under the double pressure of the Thunder Saint Palace and the Heaven Unified Dynasty, but they didn't expect another group of Fang beasts to appear. This was not an ordinary problem. Looks like there are quite a few people who want to take your life. Xiao Lin sneered and looked at Chu Hen with a mocking expression. Lei Jixin, who had been sitting on the back of the golden lion Ho, had an indifferent expression and a mocking smile. Arrogant to the extreme, foolish to the extreme, Lei Xiaolan, who was behind him, secretly shook her head. Back at the immortal viewing platform, she had personally witnessed how Chu Hen formed a feud with the Heaven Unified Dynasty and the Fang clan. To be honest, at that time, Chu Hen couldn't be said to be arrogant. After all, it was Li Wu of the Liao clan and Xiao Mang of the Heaven's Unification Dynasty who attacked first, so it was inevitable that they would become enemies. However, no one expected that the Heaven's Unification Dynasty and the Liao clan would actually find this place on the same day and at almost the same time. Kill. Tear them apart. The Fang clan was as ferocious as a ferocious beast. Launching a fierce attack, the giant claw swung down like the giant hand of a demon god. 2 experts of the mysterious ice sect who were caught off guard were directly smashed to pieces. They vomited blood and fell heavily to the ground. Dead bastard. Li Su from the profound ice sect glared angrily, his eyes almost spitting fire. Danzhen, Su Lang, and the others from Mount Kunlu were also burning with rage. Shanzhen had been infuriated by the cruel means of the Fang clan when she was on the immortal viewing platform. Now that she saw them again, she was filled with murderous intent. I want your dog lives. Immediately, an even more chaotic battle broke out in all directions. The experts of the Thunder Saint Palace were surprised at first, but then they gloated. Looks like we don't even need to use our full strength. Although our Thunder Saint Palace never needs others to interfere in these kinds of matters, we can make an exception today. Accompanied by all kinds of mocking sneers, Chu Hen's side was directly surrounded by three sides. Troublesome. The situation was like a cornered beast, besieged on all sides. What to do? Even Chu Hen couldn't help but feel a little anxious. It should be known that a monstrous expert like Lei Jixin hadn't made a move yet. In the eyes of others, Lei Jixin didn't even need to make a move. Those who kill my clansmen die. Without any time to think, the Liao clan's giants attacked Chu Hen like ferocious beasts. Their palms, which were as big as houses, whistled through the air, causing the space to tremble and thunder to roll. Chu Hen's brows furrowed. Using the shaking light movement technique, he disappeared in the air, leaving behind an afterimage. The Liao clan's giant's palms struck empty air, and a wave of air stacked up. Swoosh, however, 1 second after dodging the opponent's attack, in the next instant, a sharp sound of wind breaking came from behind. The halberd in Xiao Lin's hand pierced through the air like a divine light, stabbing toward the back of Chu Hen's heart. You can die now. Humph. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He turned around and stretched out his hand, accurately grabbing the front of the halberd. Then, like an agile ape playing with a branch, he flipped forward and nimbly stepped on the top of the halberd. He raised his hand and slashed horizontally at Xiao Lin's head. Swoosh. The dazzling blade light swept across the sky, forming a solid crescent shadow with a shocking murderous aura. Although Chu Hen's reaction speed was amazing, Xiao Lin wasn't an ordinary person. He held the halberd with one hand and tilted his head back to avoid the blade light. At the same time, he grabbed the halberd and slashed upwards. The sharp edge of the halberd could cut through iron like it was mud, shining with a dazzling cold light. Chu Hen once again pulled his body and retreated, gliding backwards. Whoosh! Without a chance to stabilize his body, several experts from the Tian Tong dynasty instantly rushed forward to kill him. The blade and the sword came out at the same time, and the swift and fierce lights and shadows attacked Chu Hen from all directions. He couldn't dodge, and he didn't even have time to block. Yin Yang Sky Palm. Moon Shadow Slash. At this time, a powerful palm with the power of Yin and Yang combined with a white sword light carrying a merciless destructive aura rushed forward. Bang! Hiss! The experts from the Tian Tong dynasty surrounding Chu Hen were caught off guard. Their internal organs were either shattered by the yin-yang palm or pierced through the chest by the powerful sword light. Several people let out miserable screams as they powerlessly fell down. The wind and rain swayed and the dust was like smoke. A cold wind filled the heaven and earth. Big brother Chu Hen, I'll help you. Yi Yao quickly rushed over, and Luo Mingshang followed closely behind. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a trace of seriousness. With Yi Yao and Luo Mingshang coming over, Chu Hen's situation was alleviated, but the pressure on the others suddenly increased. Only Long Xuanshuang, Mu Feng, Haozi, and Leng Lingyan, these outstanding people were not enough to resist the attack of the Thunder Saint Palace and the Fang clan. In an instant, 2 more disciples from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect fell from the sky along with blood splashing everywhere. Damn it! Chu Hen cursed under his breath. Then, his body moved and he dashed towards the nearest giant from the Fang clan like a bolt of lightning. Roar! The Fang clan giant let out a beastly roar and spread its 5 fingers, which were as sharp as dragon claws, towards Chu Hen like a big net. The difference in size made Chu Hen look like a moth. However, this moth was extremely dangerous. Swoosh! Just as the Fang clan giant's 5 fingers were about to close around Chu Hen, there was a muffled bang. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and the Fang clan giant's palm was pierced through, leaving a bloody hole the size of a water tank. Zap zap! Covered in black lightning, Chu Hen was like an invincible arrow that could pierce through anything. Tracing back thousands of years, he rushed in front of the Fang clan expert in a flash. The Fang clan giant's pupils shrank violently and suddenly shrank to the size of a needle. Bang! a second heavy sound rang out. Chu Hen held onto the heavenly karma blade and once again pierced through the other party's throat, directly coming out from the back of the other party's neck. A large amount of blood gushed out like a fountain. The Fong clan's giant immediately covered his wound with his hand and hoarsely roared, "Lord Fong God, grant me undying and indestructible, humph." Chapter 875. Lord Dragon God, grant me immortality. Bang! Blood rained down. In the next instant, the dragon race giant's neck was severed from the middle, and his head was immediately separated from his body. His huge head flew into the air, and a shocked expression froze on his face. Everyone present was stunned. Their eyes widened, and they looked at Chu Hen with both shock and anger. Bastard, the other dragon race giants were even more enraged, and they all exploded with a fierce aura. "Blast this damned thing into smithereens! Crush him!" Then, the dragon race giants roared at the same time and opened their mouths. Violent energy fluctuations began to condense. The heavens and the earth began to tremble and vibrate rhythmically. A thick scarlet light blossomed from their mouths like a bloody mist. "Die! Die!" Along with furious shouts, 5 majestic blood-red beams of light burst out of their mouths at the same time. The heavens and the earth changed color, and a fierce wind began to blow. A fierce, murderous aura filled the sky and the earth. Faced with these 5 deadly beams of light, Chu Hen didn't dare to be careless. His figure flashed, his speed exploding to the limit as he turned into a streak of light that shot backward. Bang! In an instant, 5 beams of blood-red light shot through the sky like rainbows converging on a single point. The violent, terrifying energy directly exploded where Chu Hen had been a second ago. The sky shook, and waves of energy shot into the sky. Waves of condensed light surged into the sky, sweeping in all directions. Even the mountain peaks and ridges below that were destroyed and flattened, Chu Hen was also shaken by this tyrannical and ferocious power until his qi and blood surged and his internal organs trembled. The dragon race's combat prowess was undeniable. When they went berserk, they were no different from vicious beasts. Outnumbered, Chu Hen didn't even have the time to put up a full defense. He could only rely on the agility of the light-shaking technique to dodge. "Big brother Chu Hen, be careful behind you." Before he had even stabilized himself, Yi Yao's anxious voice traveled into his ears. Whoosh! The sharp sword let out a soft cry. An expert from the Heaven-unified dynasty had already circled behind Chu Hen and struck with his sword. Sword runes lingered around it, and the astonishing penetrative power tore through the air. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. It was too late to dodge. His eyes turned cold, and he immediately slashed with his saber. Hiss! The icy cold sword directly pierced through Chu Hen's outer layer of defense, straight into his clothes and into his flesh. But in the next second, the Tianai blade, which was swallowing and spitting out dazzling silver light, quietly swung out. The Heaven Dynasty's expert's pupils shrank, and his face suddenly paled. The sharp blade light cut through his body as if it was a thin piece of paper. Ah! An ear-piercing scream resounded as the person from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty was split into 2 halves. Blood and internal organs splattered everywhere. Chu Hen was still as powerful as ever, but a long and narrow line of blood appeared on the wound on his back. The pretty faces of Yi Yao and Luo Mingshang changed. Without saying anything, they hurriedly rushed to Chu Hen's side. However, the other figure with an awe-inspiring aura was even faster. A mountain-like pressure surged forth violently. The halberd, which was emitting a destructive threat, was raised up high and chopped down towards Chu Hen's head with the force of splitting a mountain. "Try taking my halberd again." Xiao Lin's sinister face was filled with a ruthless smile. His evil aura surged and golden flames rose. In a hurry, Chu Hen could only place the Tianai blade horizontally above his head and forcefully resist the opponent's attack. Clang! The collision of the sacred weapons, starry flowers like rain. The scene before seemed to have changed. A powerful ripple surged out, and the cold and heavy halberd firmly pressed against the middle of the Tianai blade. In an instant Chu Hen's arms felt as if they had been hit by a meteorite. His bones and tendons were numb, and the blood in his body flowed rapidly. Chu Hen was like a sandbag that had been shot down, and he rapidly flew down. The rapid airflow whistled in his ears, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. "Hey, you can't take it anymore?" Xiao Lin disdainfully smiled, and then he flew down. He raised the halberd again and directly slashed down. Buzz! The space trembled, and a blood moon-like 100-meter-long red arc cut through the sky. Luo Mingshang and Yi Yao were too late to help, and they were extremely shocked. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he forcefully suppressed the boiling blood in his body. He hurriedly turned over and increased his speed. Whoosh! The 100-meter-wide blood moon-shaped arc passed by his chest, and it split the mountain below into two. Humph! Xiao Lin's brows surged with coldness. "You even dodged this, you're really tenacious, hee. The Heaven Imperial Dynasty and the Liao clan's encirclement gave Chu Hen endless pressure, and the other people from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect were also losing ground, and they were in a very passive position. On the back of the Golden Lion Ho, Lei Jixin quietly watched the chaotic battle in front of her, and there were no ripples in her eyes. An ant will always be an ant. No matter what, they won't be able to cause any big waves. On the other side of the mountain, Shintu Etienne was still firmly nailed to the stone wall by the blue ran sword. The successive changes made him heave a sigh of relief. The tight rhythm and pressure also made Chu Hen not have the time to put away the blue ran sword, and this also allowed Shintu Etienne's life to continue. Looking at Chu Hen, who was in danger, there was no excitement in Shintu Etienne's eyes. There was only boundless resentment and hatred, the young master of Innocence Valley. At this moment, he was like a stray dog. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in blood. He was even worse than a street beggar. If it wasn't for Chu Hen, he would have already obtained Yi Yao's Tai Chi holy body. If it wasn't for Chu Hen, how could this plan that he had spent so much effort on collapse? Hatred. It was an unparalleled hatred. Resentment and anger. Unquenchable resentment and anger. Even if Chu Hen was surrounded and killed in front of him, it still couldn't resolve the resentment in his heart. It was all because of him. It's all because of you, it's all because of you. Shintu Etienne's entire body trembled, and he gritted his teeth. His eyes were scarlet red, and the veins on his forehead bulged. His face was full of resentment, and revealed cruelty and madness. "Even if I tear you into pieces, it won't be able to resolve the hatred in my heart." Suddenly, an intense flame of hatred and anger surged and erupted within Shintu Etienne's body. In the next moment, something unbelievable happened. Shintu Etienne actually raised his right hand and grabbed the blue ran sword firmly. After that, he forcefully pulled the blue ran sword out of his chest as if he was pulling out a bone. Rumble! Waves of air shot into the sky as the 3,000 lightning haste. Shintu Etienne instantly seemed like a ferocious beast that had broken free of its chains, and he roared loudly. "You want to kill me? Wait until your next life." What? The cold wind was piercing, and it caused everyone's heart to tremble. Everyone from the mysterious ice sect and Mount Kunliu turned pale with fright. Weren't the tendons in his arms and legs severed? How could that be possible? Swish! Shintu Etienne waved his hand and tossed the blue ran sword towards Chu Hen. Scram! The sword's momentum was like a shadow, displaying the power to take a life. Chu Hen, who was being attacked by the Liao clan and Heaven Dynasty, narrowed his eyes. He raised his Tianai saber and slashed at the blue ran sword. Ding! Sparks flew everywhere as the blue ran sword drew an arc in the air and pierced through the heart of an expert from the Heaven Unified Dynasty. Hiss! A series of blood splattered as the blue ran sword returned to Chu Hen's body and circled around him from a distance. "It's actually healed." Chu Hen also looked at Shintu Etienne in shock. The wounds on his wrists and ankles had all strangely healed, and even the wound in the center of his chest had stopped bleeding. Even with miraculous medicine, it was impossible to recover so quickly. He surprised? Shintu Etienne's eyes were filled with madness and viciousness as he stared at Chu Hen with ridicule. Did anyone tell you that I still have a healing bloodline to protect me? Everyone was shocked. Wedding clothes Xian body. He could plunder their bloodline for his own use, however. Never had everyone imagined that before Shintu Etienne was about to seize the bloodline limit of Yi Yao's ultimate saint physique, he'd already obtained another bloodline. This kind of bloodline was a physique that possessed powerful healing powers. In the entire victorious Eastern state, no one knew about Shintu Etienne's secret, including his 4 trusted protectors. In that short period of time, Shintu Etienne took advantage of the gap when Chu Hen was surrounded and attacked to secretly complete his healing. "You're not qualified to kill me, Shintu Etienne." Shintu Etienne instantly felt a powerful aura being released. Then, he flipped his hand and took out an object that flickered with 7 colors. When he looked at it, it was actually an 8 trigrams tablet. The tablet was engraved with mysterious and complicated patterns. It was incomparably luxurious and dazzling. "That's the sky-piercing celestial talisman," Lei Xiaolan, who was on the golden lion's back, subconsciously blurted out. "He's going to summon experts from Innocence Valley as reinforcements." The moment she said this, even Lei Jixin, who had been calm until now, narrowed her eyes slightly. When they heard the words Sky Celestial Talisman Token, many people from Mount Kunliu and the Ice Profound sect were shocked. They knew something was wrong. Sky Celestial Talisman Token. This was a talisman that was more valuable than a saint weapon. It could be used for long-distance summoning and could instantly connect 2 different spaces. It was different from ordinary teleportation formations. Even if it was a large-scale teleportation formation that could travel 108,000 miles, it could not connect the space between the victorious Eastern state and the ancient desolate heaven territory. However, the Sky Celestial Talisman Token could do it. Such a precious treasure was extremely rare in the victorious Eastern state. Even the Thousand World sect, the Thunder Saint Palace, and the Palace of Jihua did not have it. No one expected the Innocence Valley to have a Sky Celestial Talisman Token. He tremble in fear. Everything that belongs to me, Shintu Etienne, will not be able to escape. Gotcha. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Shintu Etienne laughed maniacally and crushed the Sky Celestial Talisman in his hand without any hesitation. Rumble. In an instant, violent winds howled, and the 9 heavens darkened. A huge nebula vortex stirred the heavens and the earth. Light shone from within, and formation patterns flowed. A dazzling 8 trigrams talisman formation that spanned hundreds of meters appeared between heaven and earth. In the distance, Han Ichuan from the Palace of Jihua and Qiao Shaowan from the Thousand World sect could not help but look over. Chapter 876. This group of people from Mount Kunliu is going to be completely finished. Han Ichuan of the Jihua Palace spoke softly with a hint of frivolity, playfulness, and regret. Even Qiao Shaowan of the Thousand Worlds sect was stunned. She looked at the majestic nebula whirlpool that had appeared in the sky with surprise. The wind roared, and the sky dimmed. The nebula whirlpool shone brightly, and the runes flowed. The incomparably beautiful and resplendent runes interweaved like arcs of lightning. In an instant, a resplendent 8 trigrams talisman formation that spanned hundreds of meters appeared between heaven and earth. Hua! A powerful aura spread out in all directions like a surging undercurrent that crashed against a dam, causing the surrounding space to vibrate in a strange rhythm. The Sky Immortal Talisman. It was a summoning-type treasure that could connect 2 different spatial levels. It could directly summon experts from the Valley of Innocence to support them. No one had expected Shintu Etienne to have such a trick up his sleeves, nor did they expect him to use such a precious Sky Immortal Talisman here. This was enough to show how deep Shintu Etienne's hatred for Chu Hen was. He had been too careless. Just like how Shintu Etian had been careless towards Chu Hen, the situation between the two had suddenly changed. Chu Hen frowned, and his eyes were filled with a strong sense of seriousness. If he had chosen to kill Shintu Etian with a single strike, it would have been the end of everything. This was his mistake. After all, no one had expected Shintu Etian to be able to struggle and stand up again after his tendons had been cut off. At this moment, Shintu Etian had once again cleared his name. The young master of the Valley of Innocence was definitely not someone easy to deal with. Heh! Lei Jixin, who was on the back of the Golden Lion Ho, smiled lightly. It's getting more and more interesting. Waves of air filled the sky, and the mountains and rivers trembled. A cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. He wanted to kill Shintu Etian first, but in the next second, a majestic pressure that was like a mountain came crushing down on him. On Mount Kunlu, the people of the mysterious ice sect all turned pale with fright. They could only see that under the surging black clouds, the bright rune array was blossoming with tens of thousands of golden lights. Then, a figure with surging power flew out of thin air to attack. Who dares to injure my young master? The thunderous voice was deafening. The person who had arrived was a black-clothed man in his 40s. His sinister face was rather intimidating, and his powerful aura directly suppressed everyone present. A sky-profound realm expert. An unprecedented tension and pressure enveloped Mount Kunliu, and the hearts of everyone in the profound ice sect. If the Thunder Saint Palace, the Liao clan, and the Heaven Dynasty had forced them into a desperate struggle, then the appearance of this person had directly created a situation of certain death. The successive blows almost made everyone lose their confidence. It was impossible to escape today's calamity. Shintu Etian's arms were spread open, his hair disheveled, his body covered in blood, and his face revealed a savage and cruel smile. Hee, no one has ever been able to beat me, Shintu Etian, to this extent. You're the first, but it's a pity that the final winner is still me, still me. Yelling hysterically, Shintu Etian no longer had his previous composure. At this moment, he only had one thought, and that was to dismember that abominable bastard into 1,000 pieces. He pointed at Chu Hen and shouted, "Bei Chuan, chop off his arms and legs for me first." The black-clothed man from Innocence Valley, who was called Bei Chuan, raised his cold eyes and shot out 2 rays of cold light. He looked at the blue Rand sword that was circling around Chu Hen and shouted in a deep voice, "Someone from Mount Kunliu?" A look of disbelief flashed across his face, and Bei Chuan immediately released an aura that no one present could shake. The surging true origin energy spread out like the sea, truly capable of toppling mountains and overturning seas. Even Mount Kunliu is so arrogant now? Die. Without the slightest hesitation, Bei Chuan directly attacked Chu Hen. The torrent of true origin energy from his palm was like a waterfall that flew straight down, truly capable of shattering the heavens and collapsing the earth. Chu Hen's expression changed, and the true origin in his body circulated rapidly. The Tianai saber in his hand blossomed with a dazzling holy light. He gathered his strength and swung the holy sword. Roar! A ferocious beast roared, and a majestic white saber-toothed tiger flew out, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it whizzed forward. Bang! Once the two collided, it was like a mountain crashing into a tsunami. Thousands of waves of true origin energy splashed everywhere. In just a blink of an eye, the white saber-toothed tiger was immediately crushed by the violent force of the palm. The vast and ferocious palm energy rushed down again, heavily hitting Chu Hen's body. Bang! A heavy muffled sound rang out, and Chu Hen was directly sent flying. His chi and blood surged, and his face turned pale. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Brother Chu Hen! Chu Hen!" Yi Yao, Luo Mingshang, Long Xuan Haozi, and the others were all shocked. Yi Yao and Luo Mingshang, who were closest to him, did not say a word and flew forward to help. However, a few Liao clan giants and Heaven Imperial dynasties, Xiao Lin's group, blocked their way. Heh, he's dead for sure. Why don't you two follow me from now on? Xiao Lin blocked the two with his halberd, his face brimming with a gloating smile. Get lost. Luo Mengshang's pretty face was cold as she shouted in a deep voice. Xiao Lin raised his eyebrows, and with a move of his palm, the halberd emitted a dense golden flame. Go over if you have the ability. All sides suffered a setback, and they were completely thrown into the abyss. Thunder Saint Palace, Liao Clan, Heaven Imperial Dynasty, and Honesty Valley had already announced the death sentence of Mount Kunliu and the Ice Mystic sect. Moreover, there was still Lei Jixin, who had not made a move since the beginning. There was no way out, let alone continuing the fierce battle. Chu Hen, who had steadied himself, had a red glint in his eyes. He flipped his palm and took out an ancient scroll that was overflowing with colorful lights. The scroll emitted a strange aura. Chu Hen quickly opened it and saw that there were many patterns and runes of demon beasts on the scroll. What's that? Lei Xiaolan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise as she said, It's the revolving myriad beasts portrait that's ranked 28th on the Saint Weapon ranking. The revolving myriad beasts portrait. It was also a summoning type Saint Weapon. One could sign a contract with a demon beast and summon it for battle. Before the ancient Desolation Heaven territory opened, Chu Hen used this revolving myriad beasts portrait to summon hundreds of demon beasts and turned Kong Yu City's 7-soul palace into a river of blood. This was the only way. Chu Hen had already made a decision in his heart. He immediately poured a steady stream of true origin energy into the revolving myriad beasts portrait. Whoosh! The revolving myriad beasts portrait was like a heavenly book that was opened. The patterns and runes of various demon beasts on it shone brightly. In the next instant, the scroll immediately shone brightly and released a dazzling divine radiance that was as bright as the sun. A powerful airwave spread out in all directions. 10,000 pillars of light pierced through the sky, and the sky was once again overshadowed. Spirit inscriptions surrounded Chu Hen's body. It was as if he was holding a bright moon in his hands. Chapter 877. The Revolving 10,000 Beasts Portrait. It was a summoning type Saint Artifact ranked 28th on the Saint Artifact ranking Buzz. An unending stream of true inner energy was poured into it. It was as if Chu Hen was holding a heavenly book in his hands. Bright and dazzling lights and vibrant colors blossomed. A powerful wave of qi covered the sky and covered the earth, rising in all directions. At this moment, Chu Hen's plan was extremely simple. He would use the hundreds of demon beasts in the revolving 10,000 beasts portrait to create chaos, then quickly retreat from this place. He knew very well that no matter what, with their strength today, they would not be able to defeat the joint attack of the Thunder Saint Palace, Innocence Valley, Heaven's Unity Dynasty, and the Liao clan. They could only use the advantage of the demon beasts' numbers to resist and create an opportunity for Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect to escape. There was no other choice but to escape. Rumble, 10,000 pillars of light pierced through the sky, causing the 9 heavens to lose their color. The surging dark clouds surged wantonly, and the space around Chu Hen formed a strange energy rhythm. However, in the blink of an eye, the restless space suddenly returned to a state of stillness. The dazzling brilliance of the revolving 10,000 beasts portrait suddenly disappeared, and the aura it emitted also returned to a stable state. What's going on? Chu Hen was stunned. This situation was completely different from when he was in the Seven Souls Palace. The runes on the numerous demon beasts on the rotating myriad beast portrait were also dimmer than before, as if they were covered by a layer of gray light. The summoning failed. In an instant, everyone's gaze towards Chu Hen was filled with strangeness. Ha 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 ha! Shintu Etian laughed loudly, and his face was full of disdain. Idiot! You still want to imitate me and open 2 spatial levels? You're so stupid, haha. The cold mockery gave Chu Hen a heavy blow. The people from the Thunder Saint Palace, the Liao clan, and the Heaven's Unity Dynasty all revealed looks of disdain. Although the revolving 10,000 Beasts portrait was a saint artifact, it was difficult to summon it across two different spatial areas. In other words, compared to the sky-soaring celestial talisman token, the revolving beast portrait lost in terms of distance. Why struggle so bitterly? Die. Elder Bei Chuan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Dense and vigorous true inner energy surged like flames. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened again. The dim revolving thousand beasts diagram in Chu Hen's hand suddenly flickered with a dazzling brilliance. Among the numerous patterns of demon beasts that were shrouded in gray shadows, there seemed to be an ordinary pattern that was releasing an obscure and strong energy fluctuation. However, this ordinary-looking pattern was actually a funny-looking monkey head rune. Buzz! A layer of chi rippled out, and the space trembled slightly. In an instant, a golden light flashed in front of Chu Hen, and a small monkey with golden fur that was less than half a meter tall appeared in front of everyone's eyes in an unexpected manner. Squeak! Seeing Chu Hen, the little monkey seemed to be especially happy. Its pair of big round eyes were filled with excitement. As for Chu Hen, he really wanted to cry but had no tears. In any case, this was a dangerous moment where his life was hanging by a thread. Suddenly, such an awkward scene happened. Chu Hen was both helpless and angry. The others looked at the scene in front of them in surprise. Its combat value is 0? Han Ichuan, who was watching from afar, said suspiciously. The myriad world sex Qiao Shaowan was also surprised. It was obvious that no one present could sense the slightest fluctuation of demonic power from this strange little monkey. In other words, it could not even be considered a demon beast. At most, it could be considered a pet beast. Shintu Yi Tian sneered. A very good summon beast. Just like you, a complete piece of trash. As if it understood Shintu Yi Tian's mockery, the little monkey's joy immediately turned into anger. It placed one hand on its waist and pointed at Shintu Yi Tian with the other. It spat out a bunch of monkey language, and its rich expression was both funny and cute. Of course, Chu Hen's side could not laugh at all. Go back! Chu Hen shouted in a low voice, and was about to send the monkey back. However, before he could move, Xiao Chuan had already released a cold aura. Since you're already here, then don't go back. After saying that, Xiao Chuan reached out with one hand and condensed it in the air. Buzz! In the next moment, a circle of dense gray light enveloped the little monkey. Squeak! 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 The little monkey immediately panicked, and it anxiously jumped up and down inside. Damn it! Chu Hen's complexion changed, and he immediately flew forward to save him. Although the little monkey did not have any fighting strength, it was indeed very likable. Watching it die on the spot without doing anything, Chu Hen did not have the heart to do so. However, how could Xiao Chuan, who was at the sky profound realm, let Chu Hen have his way? He smiled coldly and waved his hand downwards. Almost at the same time, the little monkey that was enveloped by the gray light was immediately dragged away from its original spot, and like a shooting star, it crashed into a mountain wall below. Boom! The incomparably intense collision was like a falling meteor. The earth trembled, rocks flew everywhere, and the entire mountain wall collapsed with a loud bang. Such a terrifying impact would not bode well for an expert at the 7th or 8th level of the Earth Profound Realm, let alone a little beast that had no ability to resist at all. Fury! It covered Chu Hen's entire face. Old bastard! You're next! Xiao Chuan sneered disdainfully. Struggling was futile, and the encirclement fell. The one-sided attack caused Mount Kunliu and the Ice Profound sect to sink into a quagmire that was difficult to turn around. Dan Zhen, Haozi, and the others were all bathed in blood. Hua Shui's medical skills were also far from being able to keep up. Chu Hen, you guys should leave. Lung Lingyan faced the fierce attack of the Thunder Saint Palace's experts as she sincerely said to Long Xuanshuang on the other side, Senior Sister Long, thank you for the generous help of the Ice Profound sect. Please leave. When Lung Lingyan said this, the other disciples of Mount Kunliu already understood what she meant. They all knew what to do next. Everyone on this trip to Mount Kunlu could die, but only Chu Hen could not. Long Xuanxuang raised her phoenix eyes slightly, and used all her strength to send the enemy back with an ice palm. I understand. Of course, everyone knew the intentions of Mount Kunliu. Similarly, in the eyes of the people of Thunder Saint Palace, Innocence Valley, Heaven Unified Dynasty, and the Fong clan, they were extremely naive. No one can leave. If we let you escape, wouldn't our Thunder Saint Palace's reputation be undeserved? The intense attacks brought the chaotic battle to an end at an extremely fast pace. The Fong clan's giant and the Heaven Unified Dynasty's experts were also firmly entangled with Luo Mingshang and Yi Yao, making it impossible for them to help Chu Hen. Just when the situation seemed to have fallen into a hopeless situation, an earth-shattering boom suddenly erupted from the rubble below, and a force like a volcano erupted into the sky. The earth exploded, and layers of rubble were crushed into powder. Numerous cracks and fissures quickly opened up on the ground. In an instant, everyone turned pale with fright. A monstrous, majestic demonic energy surged up like a spring pillar, shooting straight into the sky. Roar! The terrifying roar of a ferocious creature was deafening, and a beam of dazzling golden light shot straight into the sky. Everyone's hearts couldn't help but tremble. Rainbow clouds churned, and a golden figure pounced at Innocence Valley's elder Bei Chuan. As it moved, the figure opened its arms and punched out, the wind howled, and a huge fist imprint smashed towards Bei Chuan like the fist of a deity. Bang! Along with the violently shaking space, the huge fist imprint smashed into Bei Chuan's body like a mountain. Light splashed everywhere and shockwaves filled the sky. Bei Chuan directly fell downwards, crashing heavily into the mountain ridge, and a circular hole rapidly opened up on the ground. What? Everyone was stunned once again. That was a Sky Profound Realm expert, and he was knocked down by a single punch? So that's how it is. On the Golden Lion Ho's back, Lei Xiaolan clenched her fists and couldn't help but blurt out. Lei Jixin raised her brows slightly, showing a hint of interest. Actually, there's a situation where the battle-revolving myriad beast diagram can cross two different planes of space. As a pattern master, Lei Xiaolan was naturally knowledgeable and knew a lot about many things. She continued to explain. That situation is when the summoned demonic beast has extremely powerful strength and perception. Even if it's in a different plane of space, it can still sense the summoner's order, thus making up for the battle-revolving myriad beast diagram's own shortcomings. Extremely powerful demonic energy and perception? This kind of demonic beast wouldn't easily become someone else's summoned beast. Boom! Immediately after, Bei Chuan shook the ground and rushed out of the rubble ruins. His aura rose, and his killing intent filled the air. Beast, I'm going to skin you. The Sky Profound Realm's aura erupted like a tsunami, and the raging waves of true origin energy covered the heaven and earth, pouncing towards the golden cloud. Roar! At the same time, an intimidating roar surged out once again, causing everyone's blood to boil. The golden auspicious cloud bloomed like a flower bud, and 10,000 rays of golden light shone like the sun in the sky. A golden behemoth over 100 zhang suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. It's that monkey. Everyone was shocked. Chu Hen was stunned. The little golden monkey astonishingly turned into a body of 100 meters, and under multiple pairs of shocked gazes, the fur on its body became thick. Its originally cute facial features also became mighty and sinister. Its eyes were like flames, and sharp teeth were revealed in its mouth. It was simply a peerlessly domineering and world-shocking demonic ape. Roar! The ape demon roared angrily and clenched its arms into fists. Buzz! Vigorous golden flames spread all over its body, covering it from top to bottom. It punched out, and the space seemed to crack. The raging waves of true origin energy were forcefully blasted open in the middle, boom. The violent power converged like a landslide and a tsunami, shaking the heavens and earth. It set off layers upon layers of huge waves, and strong winds swept through the mountains and rivers in all directions, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Chapter 878. Roar. The incomparably violent energy impact was like a landslide or a tsunami, shaking the heavens and earth. Surging true origin soared into the sky, as if it wanted to pierce a huge hole in the 9 heavens. Roar. Looking at the peerlessly domineering giant ape covered in thick golden flames, everyone present couldn't help but be shocked by the majestic demonic energy it emitted. Amazing, my brother. In the distance, Han Ichuan of the palace of Zhihua exclaimed with a face full of amazement, shaking his head as he sighed. Just a second ago, the little monkey that was obviously regarded as trash had transformed into a super-giant ape that caused people's hearts to tremble in fear in an unexpected manner. Such a terrifying might had directly shaken the strength of Xiao Chuan, a sky-profound realm powerhouse. The wind roared, and waves of air covered the sky. The giant golden ape's eyes seemed to have scorching flames dancing in them. Its sharp teeth were domineering and ferocious. With one punch, it pierced through Xiao Chuan's fierce attack. Then, it set off a majestic momentum that soared into the sky, rolling up torrential demonic energy as it pounced toward its opponent. Roar! The shockingly heavy sound waves caused the air to tremble, making people's blood boil. Similarly, Xiao Chuan's face revealed a sinister expression as he burst forth with vigorous true origin energy. Beast, behave yourself! Boom. Once the two collided, it could be said to be comparable to the collision of mountains. The wantonly splashed out like ripples on the surface of water, sweeping in all directions and sweeping in all directions. The sky darkened and the sky lost its color. Facing head-on, boom, the giant golden ape was as unmoving as a mountain, as firm as a boulder, while Xiao Chuan faintly retreated quite a bit in terms of strength alone. The giant ape was undoubtedly stronger than Xiao Chuan. The heavens and earth shook, and the mountains and rivers trembled. As the opponent's master, Chu Hen was even more astonished. He didn't really understand what was going on. The situation had changed a little too quickly. It was really an unexpected surprise. Back then, when Chu Hen used the 1000-beast fruit to summon beasts, he didn't pay much attention to the little monkey. Moreover, he didn't even plan to include it in the revolving 1000 beasts diagram. After that, when the Palace of 7 Souls was bathed in blood, the other demonic beasts were all fighting, and only the little monkey was leisurely peeling bananas at the side. Today was only their 3rd meeting. The other party had directly overturned all of Chu Hen's previous views. The revolving myriad beast diagram had failed to summon hundreds of powerful demonic beasts, and only that inconspicuous little monkey had appeared here. In fact, this was enough to show that the other party was extraordinary. Roar! The giant ape roared angrily, and its fist exploded with destructive divine power, instantly breaking a mountain ridge in front of it into 2. Dust flew everywhere, and all the vegetation in the forest was crushed into powder. Even Xiao Chuan, who was at the sky-profound realm, did not dare to confront him head-on. Roar! On the other side, the golden lion brought by the Thunder Saint Palace actually had its fur stand up as it stared cautiously at the gigantic beast. It felt a little like a leopard seeing a fierce tiger. Sensing the golden lion Qi's nervousness, Lei Zhixin frowned slightly and asked indifferently, "What species is this?" Lei Xiaolan, who was beside him, hesitated for a moment before replying uncertainly, "Judging from its appearance, it looks a little like a gorilla ferocious ape. However, gorilla ferocious apes have red and black fur. I've never heard of any golden fur. Gorilla ferocious ape. It was a heavenly beast. It was a ferocious creature with a violent personality that loved to kill. There's also a very ancient ape demonic beast that has golden fur." Lei Xiaolan added with a solemn look in her eyes as she spat out a few words clearly. Inferior ape devil! Inferior ape devil? Upon hearing these words, even the arrogant Lei Jixin's emotions fluctuated a little. She raised her head slightly and said coldly, "It's an ancient demonic beast with 3 heads and 6 arms?" "Yes." Lei Xiaolan nodded in confirmation. "However, I don't think that's possible. The bloodline of the inferior ape devil is so powerful that it has long surpassed the level of a heavenly beast. Our victorious East State has never heard of the appearance of an inferior ape devil." The two of them started guessing the identity of this berserk giant ape in front of them. In comparison, Lei Xiaolan was more willing to believe that the other party was a mutated gorilla ferocious ape and not an ancient demonic beast of legend. The inferior ape devil, however, the series of twists and turns finally caused Lei Jixin's emotions to change. Zing, a loud and clear sound reverberated, and a luxurious and beautiful longsword suddenly appeared in Lei Jixin's palm. The hilt of the sword was embedded with bright blue gems, and the body of the sword was as pure as an icicle. Along with the chi-chi sounds of agitation, a string of silver lightning immediately scurried up the sword, dazzling to the eyes. "Is Sister Jixin finally going to make a move?" Lei Xiaolan pursed her red lips. While she felt that it was only natural, she also felt a little pity for Chu Hen. "It's almost over, bang!" Another ear-piercing deafening sound spread out in the void, and the surging true essence and demon power were like a violent storm exploding. Dust and air waves filled the sky, rolling like a tide and sweeping in all directions. They collided head-on, and Xiao Chuan was once again sent flying hundreds of meters away. Roar! Just as the giant ape was about to attack, Chu Hen, who had calmed his mind, shouted, "Little monkey, protect my friend and evacuate." Chu Hen was very clear that this was the best time to retreat. Although the little monkey had the upper hand against Xiao Chuan, it was unable to kill him in a short period of time. By the time the opponent truly won, everyone from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect would probably be completely annihilated. If they wanted to save everyone's lives, it was definitely not advisable to continue fighting. "Want to leave? Too naive." Xiao Lin sneered and raised his halberd to attack Chu Hen. However, at this moment, a terrifying demonic power surged over like a flood that broke through a dam, and an endless pressure enveloped them. Xiao Lin was shocked, and after a moment of hesitation, he immediately retreated with the people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty and the Liao clan. Boom! The surging and majestic air waves swept past like a hurricane, and the top experts of the Thunder Saint Palace were forced to retreat. The giant ape obeyed Chu Hen's orders and immediately left the battlefield, then leaped and landed in front of the people from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect. Bang! The giant body landed on the ground, causing the mountains to crumble and the waterfall to flow in reverse. The opponent was like a god blocking in front of everyone, and a monstrous and vicious aura caused the enemies to not dare approach. "Go!" Chu Hen shouted at Lung Lingyan, Long Xuan, and the others. Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning pierced through the sky and struck down at Chu Hen's head like a heavenly punishment. The heavens and earth lit up, and a thick aura of danger poured over. Shocked, Chu Hen hurriedly dodged. Boom! The giant bolt of lightning landed on an ancient golden pagoda below, and in an instant, the entire magnificent golden pagoda was directly turned into dust. What a terrifying power! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he glanced to the side. He saw that Lei Jixin, who was originally on the back of the golden lion Ho, had already appeared in the sky in a flash. Her face was cold, and her sharp sword was spitting lightning. She still looked at Chu Hen with disdain and indifference. "Are you going to kill yourself, or do you want me to do it?" In the end, she still made her move. Her arrogant tone was like a judgment. However, compared to before, Chu Hen felt that the pressure was greatly reduced. He coldly glanced at Lei Jixin, and once again said to the people of Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect, "You guys leave first." "No!" Long Xuan did not agree. We have to leave together. Lung Lingyan and the others were even more against it. However, Chu Hen did not give them any room to choose. If you don't want to kill me, leave immediately. Big brother Chu Hen, I'll stay and help you, Yi Yao hurriedly said. No. Chu Hen also refused. Even though Yi Yao had evolved to the limit of the bloodline of the Tai Chi holy body, her cultivation level was not high, and her current ability was limited. Staying would only add to his burden. At the same time, Chu Hen's eyes met with Luo Mengchang's. Her eyes were as clear as autumn water, delicate and moving. There was no need for too many words. The two of them could communicate each other's thoughts with just a look. Escort them away, Chu Hen said softly. Luo Mengchang nodded. Be careful. It was also a few simple words, but that was enough. Immediately, the giant ape, Luo Mengchang, Yi Yao, Mu Feng, and the others were responsible for covering their retreat. The people of Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect retreated at top speed. Bei Chuan, don't let them escape, Shentu Etian shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen pointed the blue sky sword at Shentu Etian, who was in front of him, and said, Humph, you just said that I'm trash and you're a cripple among trash. Shentu Etian, from today onwards, the entire victorious eastern state will know that the young master of Innocence Valley was defeated by me, Chu Hen, and is worse than a dead dog. Shentu trash, you better not let me escape today. Otherwise, I will be your nightmare for the rest of your life. Damn dog. Trash. A nightmare for the rest of his life. Every word was like a pearl, and every sentence struck the heart in an instant. Shentu Etien's anger rose. He was completely enraged, and his scarlet eyes revealed dense killing intent. Kill him for me first. I want to dismember his body into 1,000 pieces. These words caused Shentu Etien's mind to be thrown into chaos. He originally wanted to chase after Yi Yao, but now he changed his mind. He wanted to kill Chu Hen first, and then get back the absolute holy body. However, he didn't know that this was exactly what Chu Hen wanted. This was the result he wanted. He wanted to draw all the spearheads to himself, and create the best opportunity for others to escape. Brat die. Bei Chuan's palms stacked together, and he attacked Chu Hen. Lei Jixin swung her sword, and with the force of lightning, a lightning sword beam over 100 zhang pierced through the sky, aiming for Chu Hen's life. Hey, you think you're infallible? Do you think you can live? Heaven Dynasty's Xiao Lin and the Liao clan's experts sneered, and they released their powerful killing moves at the same time. In an instant, several terrifying forces surged down, aiming for their lives. No matter how strong Chu Hen was, it was impossible for him to block such a powerful attack. However, at this moment, an illusory Tai Chi yin-yang diagram suddenly spread out from under Chu Hen's feet, and it instantly extended below the Heaven Dynasty's expert closest to him. Suddenly, the world spun, and the universe changed. Chu Hen and that person were like two black and white dots in the Tai Chi yin-yang diagram, and the space they were in emitted an uneasy and obscure rhythm. Get out of the way! Xiao Lin turned pale with fright, and he shouted at the Heaven Dynasty's expert. But it was already too late. In the next instant, the spatial positions of the two of them immediately changed. Like a flickering light, Chu Hen suddenly disappeared from his original place. At the same time, he was replaced by that person from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty. No, boom! Waves of terrifying power descended, and that person's pupils violently shrank. Before he could even react, he was blasted into pieces by the concentrated impact. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and limbs splattered everywhere. The combined power of Bei Chuan, Lei Jixin, Xiao Lin, and the Liao clan's experts instantly exploded. Flames soared into the sky, and waves of chaotic power spread out in all directions. Using this powerful counterforce, Chu Hen didn't even think and turned into a ray of light, flashing in another direction. Chapter 879. Shentu trash, keep your worthless life for now. I'll come for it next time. allowing the powerful and surging shock wave to add fuel to the fire. Chu Hen turned into a ray of light at an extremely fast speed and flew away in another direction. Waves of air rose and true essence splashed. Shintu Etienne was so angry that his blood vessels were about to explode. His eyes were bloodshot like a wild beast. Bei Chuan, kill him. Kill him for me. The corners of Bei Chuan's eyes turned cold as killing intent surged. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen the resourceful and cool-headed young master lose his composure like this. It had to be said that the blow Shintu Etienne suffered today was truly great. However, as an elder, Bei Chuan was no fool. He naturally understood Chu Hen's intentions. He wanted to infuriate Shintu Etienne so that everyone would chase after him and create an opportunity for the others from Mount Kunliu and the Ice-Profound sect to escape. Young master, we can kill this person later. It's more important to obtain the Saint Physique bloodline first. No, I must kill him first today. I must kill him first. Shintu Etienne trembled. His hatred for Chu Hen overshadowed everything else. If he didn't get rid of him, he wouldn't be able to swallow this resentment. Bei Chuan secretly cursed him for being muddle-headed, but seeing that he was so persistent, he could only fly in the air and chase after Chu Hen. Little bastard, I'd like to see where you can escape to. Looking at Lei Jixin, who had fled several kilometers away, his face was as cold as ice. There were simply too many secrets hidden in this unknown young man. After a moment of thought, Lei Jixin said coldly to Lei Xiaolan and the other experts of the Thunder Saint Palace, I'll go retrieve the immortal talisman spirit tree. You guys go chase after the others, yes? Everyone immediately agreed. Without another word, they turned into streaks of light and chased after Chu Hen. Heaven Dynasty's Xiao Lin also made his decision. He said to Xian Gu, Bai Nian, and the others, split into two groups. You guys go after the defeated soldiers. Understood. Towards Chu Hen, Xiao Lin already had the heart to kill him. His intuition told him that if Chu Hen was left alive, he would definitely become a great threat. If this kid didn't die, he wouldn't be able to rest easy. The killing intent did not stop there. Instead, it quickly spread to other places. Young master, Green Snake, Xieling, and Xuechen, who had survived from Wuang Valley, dragged their half-crippled bodies to Shintu Etienne's side. Shintu Etienne's face was ashen as he shouted, You pieces of trash, hurry up and follow me. Although Shintu Etienne had been angered by Chu Hen to the point of losing his rationality, he had not forgotten the purpose of his trip. He ordered Xiao Chuan to chase after Chu Hen in order to ensure that he could kill him without fail. Meanwhile, he, along with the experts of the Thunder Saint Palace, the Heaven's Unity Dynasty, and the Fang clan, would chase after Yi Yao's group. By relying on everyone's strength to surround and kill them, there was a high chance that they would be able to reclaim the bloodline boundary of the Tai Chi holy body. Let's go. The two paths separated. All that was left was a mess on the ground and a large area of devastated mountains and rivers after the battle. In an instant, there was no one left in the original place, only a dozen or so corpses and the heavenly serpent woman who was on the verge of death. It was unknown whether she was alive or dead. Hurry up! Hurry up! At Mount Kunliu, the mysterious Ice Sex team was like a defeated army. Every one of them was covered in blood, and their auras were dispirited. Even Long Xuanshuang, Lung Lingyan, Qi Zhang, Danzhen, and the others had suffered varying degrees of injuries. They couldn't die because they were too weak, because the enemy this time was simply too terrifying. Luo Mingshang's elegant brows were slightly furrowed. From time to time, she would look back, her heart on Chu Hen's side. The giant ape that the little monkey had transformed into was enveloped in brilliant golden flames. Like a god of war, it walked at the very back, covering for everyone. Roar! At this moment, a roar that emitted a fierce and ruthless aura whistled from behind. The giant ape's eyes suddenly spat out two balls of flames. Just as it turned around, A savage beast that was as large as a mountain directly pounced over. Boom! The giant ape, who was caught off guard, was pressed to the ground by the other party. It crashed into two mountains in a row, causing debris and dust to fill the sky. Everyone's expression changed greatly. The newcomer was none other than the golden lion Ho that the Thunder Saint Palace had brought. Roar! The golden lion Ho's 4 claws contained tremendous force as it tightly gripped the giant ape's upper body. Its huge mouth, which was covered with sharp teeth, opened and directly bit towards the other party's throat. The giant ape roared and raised its steel-like arm to grab the golden lion Ho's lower jaw, making it difficult for it to close its bloody mouth. The two beasts fought, and their hostility soared to the sky. At the same time, many experts from the Thunder Saint Palace, the Liao clan, and the Heaven Unified Dynasty quickly arrived. You think you can leave? Just a bunch of mobs. Die! No one can save you. Damn it! At Mount Kunliu, everyone from the Ice Mystic sect was extremely anxious and cursed in their hearts. They were all seriously injured and simply couldn't fight anymore. You guys go first, I'll hold them off, Luo Mingshang said in a low voice. But, hurry up, we don't have much time. As soon as she finished speaking, Luo Mingshang's body bloomed with a holy brilliance, and a sparkling crescent spirit tattoo appeared between her brows. Boom! A circle of air stacked in all directions, and 2 pairs of pure white wings appeared behind Luo Mingshang. Swoosh! Luo Mengchang brandished the long sword in her hand. Her beautiful figure was peerless, and a series of hazy phantoms flashed in the void. Together with an astonishing majestic force, a sword screen barrier that was like a tsunami surged into the sky. It could topple the mountains and overturn the seas, and it pushed towards the enemies who were chasing after her. Rumble! The huge sword screen was like a waterfall that appeared between heaven and earth, and wherever it went, the mountain peaks and forests below were crushed and swept away. The people from the Thunder Saint Palace and the Heaven Unified Dynasty were also quite surprised. They didn't expect that the other party would have someone with such cultivation. Everyone burst forth with vigorous true origin energy, and each of them launched a piercingly cold attack. Multicolored beams of divine light uniformly struck the huge sword screen. Bang! The majestic scene was like a huge wave slamming against a dam, and the successive impacts directly shattered the sword curtain. However, in the next moment, Luo Mingshang's beautiful eyes narrowed, and the crescent spirit tattoo between her brows released a strange, obscure rhythm. Moon Harvest! Her red lips opened slightly, and her voice was light and agile. Voila! In an instant, the huge sword screen seemed to have encountered a tornado, and the light and shadow fragments that filled the sky suddenly became incomparably solid. They rotated at high speed with the wind, and turned into countless shadow blades that poured towards everyone. The shadow blades that covered a large area fell like rain. They tore through the air and revealed the power of harvesting. The people from the Thunder Saint Palace and the Liao clan were continuously pushed back by the Shadow Blade storm, and it was difficult for them to forcefully break through this boundary. This is not bad, but with just you alone, how can you stop me? A cold and sinister laugh sounded out, and 5 different colored tokens revolved around Shintu Etienne's body. Each token swallowed and spat out powerful energy fluctuations, and any shadow blade that came into contact with Shintu Etienne was shattered by the 5 elements token's attack. On the other side, Yi Yao was shocked when she saw this. Shintu Etienne, the person you're looking for is me. Don't hurt her. You think you're qualified to negotiate with me. Shintu Etienne's gaze was gloomy and scarlet red. He spread his arms apart, and then the 5 elements token that revolved around him instantly transformed into 5 rays of light that shot forward explosively. OM. Space trembled uneasily. As they moved, the 5 rays of light transformed into extremely sharp arrows that shot like bolts of lightning towards Luo Mengchang's life. Luo Mengchang's pupils constricted slightly while a strand of panic flashed through her eyes. Rumble! However, right at this moment, the space in front of Luo Mengchang suddenly warped, and then an enormous 9-level black pagoda that emanated an ancient and desolate aura suddenly appeared in the heavens and the earth. Bang! 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 5 rays of light descended successively onto the enormous pagoda, and then layer after layer of light vortexes sprang up and caused the heavens and the earth to tremble without end. I'm going to show my might. A figure that surged with a ferocious aura charged over with a pagoda-shaped broadsword in hand. Mu Feng bared his teeth, and he seemed slightly ferocious. I'll let all of you experience my fucking ultimate move. Sword Devil descends. OM. OM. Tens of thousands of flowing light patterns converged on the Buddha Devil sword. Mu Feng held the sword hilt with both hands, and his eyes emitted 2 rays of blue light. The veins on both sides of his eyes bulged. Slash! He swung the sword horizontally, and with a swish, a blue sword light that was as wide as a river swept forward. The powerful and piercingly cold sword light covered the heavens and the earth, like a raging wave on the surface of the sea. Endless blue light quickly surged forward, and in an instant, the heavens and the earth lost their color. Boom! Shintu Etienne, who was charging at the front, was directly swept by this attack. As if he had been hit by a mountain, Shintu Etienne trembled, and blood spurted out of his mouth. On the other hand, the other people from the Thunder Saint Palace, the Liao clan, and the Heaven Dynasty were also pushed back by the blue sword wave. Many people with relatively weaker cultivations were directly cut in 2 at the waist, and they let out miserable shrieks as they died on the spot. Fierce! Everyone from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect clicked their tongues. Mu Feng actually had such a trick up his sleeves? The sword Devil Xian body was truly amazing. However, in the next moment, Mu Feng suddenly became a little unsteady, and his face became especially pale. Seeing this, Haozi immediately flashed over, grabbed his shoulder, and pulled him back. Can you withstand it? It's nothing, I just can't see people clearly. Mu Feng replied weakly. Stop talking nonsense, let's go. Luo Mengchang and Mu Feng's 2 powerful killing moves caused the pursuing enemies to encounter a lot of obstacles. However, everyone was very clear that these few people could not stop them at all, and they had to quickly retreat. Roar! Roar! The battle between the golden lion mantis and the demonic ape was unimaginably fierce. The 2 fierce beasts constantly bit and bit each other, and their huge bodies rolled on the ground, smashing mountains and flattening rivers. Just as the battle was about to end, the giant ape suddenly burst out with a monstrous and majestic aura, and its arm fiercely hammered the ground beside it. Boom! The ground cracked and the stones shattered. A huge pit appeared under it, and the 2 immediately fell into the pit and lost their balance. Taking advantage of this, the giant ape seized the opportunity and immediately turned around, pressing the golden lion mantis under its body. Roar! The giant ape let out a deafening roar, and its arms covered in dense golden flames closed together. Its 5 fingers intersected to form a heavy punch, and it fiercely smashed on the golden lion mantis' head. Bang! The terrifying power was filled with divine strength, and the golden lion mantis' head was smashed into the pile of stones on the ground. Without waiting for the other party to launch any counterattack, the giant ape grabbed the golden lion mantis' 2 hind legs, forcibly dragged it off the ground, raised it high, spun a few times on the spot, and smashed it towards the cliff in front of it. Boom! Bang! The continuous explosions shook the heavens and the earth. The golden lion mantis was directly used by the giant ape as a sledgehammer. Amid the flying stones, scarlet blood gushed out of the golden lion mantis' mouth and nose. Lei Xiaolan, who was a few miles away, saw this scene, and her face was a little pale. The golden lion mantis was defeated so quickly? This was something that she did not expect. She looked at the people from Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect who left in a hurry, shook her head, and sighed. Looks like the heavens didn't kill them, according to the normal development, even if the golden lion mantis was no match for the giant ape, it would be enough to kill the others as long as it stalled the latter. However, with the strength of Luo Mengchang, Mu Feng, and the others, they were able to wait until the giant ape won. As long as the mysterious demonic ape was still around, everyone was more or less safe. Chapter 880. The Mang Mountain was vast, and the spirit was beautiful. The great Dao Cliff was full of abysses. Whoosh, in the mountain valley, a figure like a ray of light was flying at an extremely fast speed. It moved like the wind, like a bolt of lightning that pierced through the sky. A few miles behind him, 3 auras were hot on his tail. It was difficult to shake them off. They were getting closer and closer. Between Chu Hen's brows there was a lot of seriousness, and he became cautious. I wonder if the others managed to escape successfully? But with the little monkey, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. After all, Lei Jixin and Bei Chuan, the 2 strongest people, had been lured away by him. He believed that there was no need to worry too much. Feeling the threatening auras closing in on him, Chu Hen's true origin energy circulated rapidly, and he used the rune technique to increase his movement speed. Once again, he widened the distance between him and the 3 pursuers. Chu Hen couldn't remember how many times he had been in such a life-or-death situation. But the only time he was in such a situation was before the opening of the ancient desolation heaven domain, when he accidentally met Tuoba Sha outside of Kongyu City. At that time, the light Saint Clan guard who was chasing him was definitely powerful enough to take his life with a flip of his hand. That was almost like a brush with death. An elder of Honesty Valley, who was at the profound sky realm, a genius from the Thunder Saint Palace who had the bloodline limit of the Thunder Saint body, and a top genius expert from the Heaven Imperial dynasty. With such a lineup, Chu Hen couldn't help but feel a little amused. These people really thought highly of him. If he didn't take his life, they probably wouldn't let it go. The great Dao Cliff was vast and boundless, and between the mountains were deep chasms. There was no lack of misty areas, such as the dreamy cloud water swamp, which was as mysterious as an illusion. Chu Hen specifically chose to move in such dangerous places with natural barriers, and he used the mountains, rocks, and ancient buildings as cover, chasing at top speed, life and death at the speed of light. Moving without a destination had already made Chu Hen lose his direction. What was certain was that he was getting deeper and deeper into the Great Dao Cliff. The Great Dao Cliff was one of the most mysterious places in the ancient, desolate heaven domain. Speaking of which, even the rich and powerful sects in the Victory East region had very limited information. Looking at the uninhabited desolate land in front of them, the white fog was like muslin, and the huge peaks and strange rocks on both sides were like ferocious beasts baring their fangs and claws, giving off a mysterious feeling that was difficult to see through. What a strange feeling! Chu Hen was stunned in his heart. He'd actually noticed a very strange and chaotic spatial fluctuation. This rhythm didn't come from a person. It was like the unique aura of a land with a long history. It was ancient, desolate, and slightly palpitating. Intuition told Chu Hen that he had stepped into a strange area that no one knew about. Whoosh! Chu Hen flew up and turned into a beam of light, directly passing through the huge ravine formed by the 2 rows of mountain peaks. The white mist that was like a snowy veil was like the clouds that had been lifted immediately after. An ancient and desolate aura rushed towards Chu Hen. In the next instant, an incomparably majestic stone staircase appeared in Chu Hen's vision. This is? Even after entering the ancient desolate heaven domain and seeing all kinds of strange and extravagant buildings, Chu Hen was still shocked by the stone staircase in front of him. The stone staircase increased in number and shot up into the sky. This wasn't an ordinary staircase, but a staircase that led to the 9 heavens. The steps were very wide, and every step was half a meter high. They were laid out layer by layer, so high that the top could not be seen. Standing at the bottom of this heaven stairway, Chu Hen impressively felt as if he was in 3,000 worlds, and his sense of self was insignificant. Weeds sprouted on both sides of the staircase. There were also unknown plants and green moss spread out between the cracks of the stone. After countless years of being battered by wind and rain, the stone slabs were full of holes. It was as if no one had been here for thousands of years. It was that palpitating feeling again. Looking at the stone staircase in front of him, Chu Hen felt an indescribable reverence in his heart. If it was any other time, he would have to consider whether he should continue forward or not. However, the three auras behind him that were rapidly approaching him left him with no room to choose. Go. Without much hesitation, just as he was about to collide with the stone staircase in front of him, Chu Hen suddenly changed his direction and turned into a ray of light as he shot up. Xiao! Moving as fast as lightning, his afterimage flashed past. Chu Hen stuck close to the surface of the stone staircase and quickly moved upwards. He was agile and swift, and as light as a swallow. Every time Chu Hen landed, he would lightly tap the stone staircase with the tip of his foot. In that instant, his speed was like an arrow that had left the bow, and he was extremely fast. However, the desolate stone steps of the heaven stairway were a lot higher than what Chu Hen had imagined. After ascending 10,000 steps, he still couldn't see the top, and it was so far away that he couldn't reach it. How high was this staircase? What kind of fortune was it to be able to build such a huge and spectacular project? Other than confusion, Chu Hen's heart was only left with amazement. Whoosh! The strong and rapid wind whistled in his ears, but Chu Hen didn't dare to stop at all. From the corner of his eyes, he could see the mountains and rivers in the distance. They were so small that they looked like a painting. After crossing nearly 90,000 steps, Chu Hen finally saw the end of the staircase. Just like the first glimmer of dawn, the first rays of the morning sun descended. Chu Hen's eyes swept away the gloom and flashed with a somewhat excited expression. Then, like an eagle breaking through the clouds, he soared high up into the sky, thousands of miles above the ground. Whoosh! The wind blew in his face, mixed with the aura of 1,000 years of wind and rain. Above the staircase, what appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes was an ancient and mysterious place that made one's pupils contract and heart beat faster. The vast area was like a city in the sky from ancient times. The buildings that exuded a desolate and simple aura were like the ruins of the gods. Compared to the ancient buildings that he had seen before, it was like heaven and earth. Every tower, jade building, and sculpture that stood in front of Chu Hen seemed to be telling the story of the extraordinary years of the past. Chu Hen stood at the top of the staircase, looking at the uninhabited area in front of him. His heart was filled with shock. An inexplicable fear rushed into his heart. The inexplicable fear was magnified again, and this time, the fear was especially clear. What a chaotic aura! The strange rhythm was like a strange gravitational field, and even the true core strength flowing in his body had a subtle change. Chu Hen couldn't determine what was inside. But no matter what was hidden inside, Chu Hen didn't have to think about it. With a flash of determination in his star-like eyes, Chu Hen once again dashed toward the ancient ruins in front of him. In the next moment, from the corner of his eyes, Chu Hen suddenly caught a glimpse of an ancient stone tablet below. The words on the stone tablet had become blurred by the wind and rain, but he could still vaguely make out a few words on it. Chapter 881. The Land of the Buried Dragon? What was this place? Whoosh! 3 rapid whooshing sounds cut through the air. Then, 3 figures leaped over the stone steps and landed on the high platform at the top of the stairway. What appeared in front of them was an ancient, desolate land. All kinds of strange and magnificent buildings seemed to form an astonishing and mysterious ruin. I can't feel that bastard's aura anymore. Heaven Dynasty's Shaolin furrowed his brows and revealed a cold expression. Xiao Chuan, the elder of the Valley of Innocence, also narrowed his eyes. This mysterious ancient ruin was mixed with many chaotic energy fields. This kind of energy field formed a kind of energy rhythm similar to a repulsive force, which unintentionally disrupted their perception of Chu Hen's aura, Lei Jixin was still indifferent and silent. There was only a little surprise in her calm eyes about the ruins. In reality, even the information that the Thunder Saint Palace had gathered in the ancient desolate heaven region didn't have a detailed explanation of this place. This was a very strange area. Humph, he can't escape. Xiao Chuan's eyes turned cold and his killing intent piled up. Let's split up and chase after him. Even if we have to dig 3 feet underground, we have to dig him out, all right? Xiao Lin agreed. With that, the two of them took the lead and flew off, one on the left and one on the right, in the direction they had chosen. Lei Jixin paused in place for a moment. The icicle-like sacred sword in her hand flashed with traces of lightning patterns. A proud smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and then she disappeared. The stairway to heaven was high, and the ancient city was old. Countless years of being shaken by the wind and rain caused this ancient ruin to have a layer of an unknown and unadorned aura. Chu Hen carefully moved forward in this ruin. His heart was always in a suspended state, and the cautiousness between his brows showed his respect for this place. What a chaotic energy field! The deeper he went, the more Chu Hen could feel that this place was unusual. There seemed to be an invisible pulling force in all directions. This pulling force had no pattern to speak of. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and it was faintly discernible. It could even affect the true yuan flowing in Chu Hen's body. Could it be that there was some kind of terrifying existence hidden here? Chu Hen shook his head inwardly. If it's really like this, then this place is much more dangerous than I imagined. But very quickly, Chu Hen made a surprising discovery. The strength of the invisible pulling force produced here was actually dependent on the amount of true origin energy released from his body. The more true inner force that was released, the stronger the invisible magnetic field would be. If he converged all of his true elemental energy, there would be almost no effect. What a strange phenomenon! Something even stranger. In next to no time, Chu Hen arrived before an enormous iron chain bridge. Clouds and mist coiled around the bridge, yet it was a bottomless abyss. The other half of the heavenly bridge was shrouded in white mist. It was impossible to see the internal environment and structure through the clouds and mist. It was very mysterious. Harboring a respectful and cautious heart, Chu Hen stepped onto the heavenly bridge. The ancient bridge creaked, giving people a feeling of suspense as if they were standing on top of a dangerous building. The iron chains connecting the bridge had long since rusted, and they swayed back and forth slightly. After walking through the middle of the bridge, Chu Hen stepped into the white mist. The thick white mist blocked his vision, and he could only see a few boards under his feet. As if he had experienced thousands of years of wind, frost, rain, and snow, Chu Hen stepped on the other end of the heavenly bridge. The white mist in front of him instantly dispersed, and Chu Hen felt as if he had passed through an illusion. In a split second, a shocking scene that he had never seen before appeared in front of him. This is? Chu Hen's pupils quietly trembled. In front of him was a vast natural moat and huge ravine. The surrounding peaks and cliffs were like the heads of eagles poking out of the chasm. And in the center of the chasm, there was a strange ancient altar. The altar was round, and its surface was covered with mysterious ancient runes. Every rune was dark red like dried blood. If one looked closely at those runes, they would even have the illusion of flowing. The ancient altar was desolate and desolate. However, the thing that truly caused Chu Hen to feel a chill down his spine were the 5 stone statues that stood behind the ancient altar. These were 5 ferocious, demonic stone statues that looked like evil spirits. One was holding an iron chain and its fangs were exposed. The other was sitting cross-legged, holding a skull in its hand, and the first thing that Chu Hen saw was the stone statue in the middle. The statue in the middle was holding a giant axe in its hands. Its mouth was wide open, and its upper and lower fangs were exposed. Its huge eyes emitted a terrifying aura. The statue in the middle was nearly 1,000 meters tall, and the other 4 were 600 to 700 meters tall. Looking at these ferocious and terrifying stone statues, Chu Hen's scalp went slightly numb, and the hair on his body stood up. That inexplicable palpitation was magnified infinitely at this moment. This was a palpitation and awe without any reason. Ancient altar. Frightening statues. At this moment, in Chu Hen's eyes, every flower, grass, stone, and wood here seemed extremely strange. It was as if he had unintentionally entered a realm that he could not touch, and his heart was filled with confusion. It's actually the 5 saint sealing tactic. Suddenly, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird's shocked and surprised voice rang. This was also the first time Chu Hen heard the bird's tone so solemn. What did you just say? I said this is the arrangement of the 5 saint sealing tactic. To put it bluntly, this is even more powerful than the seal that was cast on me back then. Gasp! Chu Hen could not help but gasp. He still remembered the scene of the sacred winged heavenly flame bird breaking through the seal at the 10,000 beast ridge. Millions of demonic beasts were turned into skeletons, countless living beings were reduced to cannon fodder, mountains and rivers were destroyed, and the sky and earth were collapsing. In particular, that seal had existed for hundreds of years, and it still possessed such terrifying power. Just how shocking was this sealing technique known as the 5 saint? No wonder the energy here is so chaotic. So someone set up the 5 saint sealing tactic here. The sacred winged heavenly flame bird murmured again. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird murmured again. Then, it raised its voice and warned, "Hurry up and leave this place. We can't stay here for long." Got it. Even the sacred winged heavenly flame bird, who had always had a high standard, was so cautious. It was enough to show how strange this place was. Chu Hen did not think he would be able to discover anything else from this place. It was best to leave before the 3 people behind caught up to him. Chapter 882. An ancient and mysterious altar. 5 hideous and terrifying stone statues of evil spirits and demons. The powerful 5 sacred sealing technique that even the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow feared and treated with caution. The strange and peculiar scene of the ancient ruins in front of him made Chu Hen really unwilling to stay here any longer. The rhythm formed by the strange and chaotic gravitational field gave off a palpitating feeling. The 5 huge demonic stone statues were terrifying and domineering. It gave people the feeling that they were being stared at by a living demon from hell. Clang! But just as Chu Hen was about to leave, a shocking bolt of lightning that pierced through the sky came down, setting off a majestic aura of destruction. Damn it! I've been found! Chu Hen felt something was wrong. At the same time, his figure moved and flashed away from his original spot like a phantom. Bang! In the next moment, the mountain wall beneath him seemed to have been hit by a meteorite. Gravel flew, the ground split open, and cracks spread out like a spider's web. A cold and arrogant aura came toward him. Chu Hen frowned, and the corner of his eyes glowed coldly. He looked up at the magnificent and beautiful figure. Lei Jixin stood proudly in the void, looking down at Chu Hen. The holy sword in her hand was covered with silver spark-shaped lightning patterns, and her noble and beautiful face was full of cold arrogance. "Are you going to end your own life, or do you want me to do it?" This was not a question, but an irresistible order. It was like a high and mighty noble looking down on the common people. Humph! Chu Hen sneered. With a thought, a sharp sword aura spread out, and he immediately summoned the blue ran sword. "You really make me very unhappy." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold light flashed in Lei Jixin's eyes. Hiss, like the sound of air being cut, Lei Jixin left an illusory afterimage in her original position. She instantly leaped hundreds of meters, and in a flash, she had already arrived in front of Chu Hen. The holy sword that was swallowing and spitting lightning slashed through the air, aiming for Chu Hen's throat. What a fast sword! Chu Hen's pupils shrank involuntarily. Apart from dodging, he had no time to face the attack. Whoosh! In a moment of haste, Chu Hen once again dodged and dodged. He quickly flew dozens of meters away. However, a hint of ridicule appeared at the corner of Lei Jixin's mouth. In the next instant, when Chu Hen retreated, Lei Jixin once again left behind an afterimage in the air. She moved as fast as lightning, and a beam of light swept across the sky. It was as if there was a meteor streaking across the sky. Lei Jixin's figure was like a phantom as she chased after Chu Hen. "That's it?" He struck with his sword, 3,000 volts of lightning. The thunder mark that lingered on the blade of the sword was like a python. Chu Hen was shocked, and he hurriedly brandished the blue sky sword to block it. Bang! The tips of the two sacred swords clashed, causing sparks to fly and electricity to blossom. A huge electric current surged into Chu Hen's body, causing his arm to go numb and his organs to tremble. The astonishing hidden force caused Chu Hen to be sent flying. What terrifying power! She was indeed a monster with the Thunder Soul sacred physique bloodline boundary. Chu Hen was secretly shocked. Although they were both at the sacred physique bloodline boundary, Lei Jixin's cultivation was 2 levels higher than his. The further they went, the more obvious the gap between the 2 levels became. In addition, Lei Jixin was a top genius from the Thunder Saint Palace, which was enough to suppress her peers. However, although he was shocked, Chu Hen did not feel the slightest fear. "Humph, so what if you're at this level? How can you keep me here?" Chu Hen retorted sarcastically. He did not plan to deal with Lei Jixin here, and he used the recoil to continue his retreat. Lei Jixin's expression was still calm. "I hope you can escape." As soon as she finished speaking, Lei Jixin flew up and flashed higher into the sky. Then, a majestic force gushed out from her body, and a strange rhythm quietly formed between heaven and earth. Lei Jixin held the sacred sword in her hand, but she drew a circle in the air with a spinning posture, swish. In an instant, a bright ring of light appeared out of nowhere in the sky. Like drawing a prison, the silver light circle spanned 1,000 feet in diameter, directly sealing Chu Hen, Lei Jixin, and herself within it. Looking at this strange bright sword circle, Chu Hen narrowed his eyes. The true origin energy in his body circulated rapidly, trying to forcefully break through the sword circle. However, the Jirun sword had only just touched the circle of swords when wind and lightning suddenly arose in the 9 heavens, and a violent and robust bolt of lightning descended from the sky like a dragon or a snake as it fiercely smashed down. What? The sword circle could actually trigger the power of thunder and lightning. That was a little troublesome. In a hurry, Chu Hen immediately changed his attack and raised his sword to meet the descending lightning pillar. Bang! Fiery rain splattered everywhere, and stardust exploded. The violent airwave, accompanied by the power of electricity, quickly entered Chu Hen's body, and the meridians in his limbs were a little numb. Wild gales piled up, and traces of destructive aura spread out. Chu Hen's face darkened slightly, and he stared coldly at Lei Jixin in front of him. "What? You're not letting me go? Could it be that you've taken a fancy to this young master?" Lei Jixin's willowy eyebrows slightly furrowed as she spoke sarcastically. "Birds from the east fly to the west, and phoenixes everywhere find it hard to settle down. Qilin in the south goes to the north, and all the birds and beasts on the mountain bow their heads. A nameless ant like you can only show off with your tongue. Other than that immortal talisman spirit tree, is there anything else on your body worth a second glance? Birds from the east, phoenixes, beasts, and Qilin in the south." In Lei Jixin's eyes, this was the difference between Mount Kunliu and her Thunder Saint Palace. This sentence clearly showed her disdain for other sects and forces. Since you want the immortal talisman spirit tree, this young master will give it to you." Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows raised, and a powerful sword aura surged out. With a wave of his hand, the blue sky sword in his hand immediately left his palm, and like an arrow leaving the bow, it shot towards Lei Jixin. Split! Along with a silent shout, the moving blue sky sword blossomed with a brilliant green glow, and it turned into 4 sacred swords in a row, releasing a life-threatening aura, a calm light floated in Lei Jixin's cold eyes. Facing these four sword shadows, she was almost indifferent. Qi densely packed lightning patterns gathered in her left palm. She instantly waved her arm, and a condensed bolt of lightning crossed the sea like a flood dragon, like a graceful swan, lighting up the heavens and the earth. Bang, bang, an incomparably violent collision spread out in front of Lei Jixin, but she still stood in the same spot, and the four blue sky swords that attacked her were all bounced off without exception. Swish! Immediately after, one of the sword shadows suddenly drew an arc after being sent flying for less than 20 meters, and like a flowing light arrow, it circled behind Lei Jixin. Buzz, buzz! Almost at the same time, a strange rhythm arose in the space. 500 to 600 meters away, Chu Hen raised his eyelids, and two rays of light flashed in his eyes. Flying celestial flash technique, whoosh! In an instant, he disappeared on the spot. Afterimages flashed behind Lei Jixin, and an ice-cold aura attacked. A powerful hand suddenly grasped the blue sky sword, and the ice-cold sword edge slashed towards the opponent. Chapter 883. Phoenix, right? I'll send this phoenix back to its hometown today. Whoosh! A cold wind blew, and an afterimage flashed behind Lei Jixin like a ghost. Chu Hen held the blue sky sword and slashed at the opponent with the momentum. Flying celestial flashing technique. The speed was so fast that it existed in the blink of an eye. However, just as Chu Hen was about to complete his first counterattack, the air trembled slightly with a whoosh. The blue ran sword slashed empty air. Lei Jixin, who was still there a second ago, disappeared in the blink of an eye. How could this be? A cold chill came from the other side. Chu Hen frowned and looked solemnly at Lei Jixin, who appeared out of thin air a few hundred meters away. Could this be the same technique as the flying celestial flashing technique? Chu Hen was secretly surprised. Looks like the so-called one-sword flying celestial technique is just SOSO. Lei Jixin's red lips parted slightly, and her tone was indifferent. Chu Hen smiled frivolously. The last person who said this was Shintu Etienne, and then, his tendons in his arms and legs were broken by me. Not bad. I hope you can keep smiling. After she finished speaking, Lei Jixin moved with her sword. A bolt of lightning swept through the sky like a dragon emerging from the sea. It swept up the power of thunder and attacked furiously. Chu Hen was not to be outdone, and a demonic purple glow flickered in his deep eyes. Whoosh! In an instant, Chu Hen suddenly turned into a white humanoid sword aura and rushed out, crashing into the lightning head-on. A loud noise shook the sky. The humanoid sword aura that Chu Hen transformed into cut horizontally and cut the lightning into pieces. However, Lei Jixin did not give Chu Hen any chance to display it. Her figure moved and completed a series of leaping flashes. Every time it flashed, it would leave behind a blurry afterimage in the void. The sword aura flew and showed its sharpness. In merely the blink of an eye, with Chu Hen as the center, over a dozen illusory afterimages shockingly appeared in front of him, and the rhythm of space caused one to be dazzled. Immediately after, Lei Jixin directly attacked from right in front of Chu Hen. Her transcendent aura and posture were like a fairy flying from the heavens. The holy sword covered in lightning quickly pointed at the center of Chu Hen's eyebrows, with the power of a fatal blow. Not daring to be the slightest bit careless, Chu Hen opened his left hand, his 5 fingers condensed, and quickly gathered the power of the 7 stars. Circles of rapidly rotating silver energy patterns instantly formed a ball of extremely dense energy. Merak kill! The spiraling energy ball spun at high speed and struck the side of the holy sword covered in lightning. Bang! Once the two violent forces came into contact, sparks rained down in all directions. The holy sword in Lei Jixin's hand immediately deviated from its offensive trajectory, and the ice-cold sword tip brushed past the tip of Chu Hen's nose. There was a faint prickling pain. Fecta chains, Chu Hen once again shouted in a low voice. Whoosh! 7 glittering chains flew out from behind him. Every chain was gorgeous and resplendent, like divine metal that gathered the essence of the stars. They rapidly circled around and formed a strange fence, directly blocking Lei Jixin's path of retreat. It was like an iron chain that crossed the river. "It's my turn, Thunder Saint Palace Girl," Chu Hen shouted. His handsome face revealed a hint of ruthlessness, and his left palm once again erupted with a surging majestic aura. A pattern of the Big Dipper appeared in his palm, and 4 of the stars were the most resplendent. The space fluctuated rhythmically. Chu Hen struck out with his palm, setting off a rolling wave that attacked his opponent. Feeling the astonishing energy wave transmitted from Chu Hen's palm, Lei Jixin's eyes couldn't help but flash a trace of astonishment. The aura of the opponent's attack could actually pose a threat to her. The star chains were like a rope, blocking the way. Chu Hen's momentum rose, and he counterattacked. 4 Star Soul's critical strike, however, at this moment, the same situation as before happened. Lei Jixin disappeared on the spot once again, as though she had teleported in the air. "Idiot!" A cold and disdainful mocking voice came from the other side. 100 meters away, Lei Jixin looked at Chu Hen like a cat playing with a mouse. But immediately after, the energy gathered in Chu Hen's left palm quickly returned to normal. At the same time, a faint mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Using the same move twice in front of me, Miss Lei is looking down on me too much." "What?" Lei Jixin couldn't help but be shocked. In a split second, the icy cold current attacked from all directions like the undercurrent of the deep sea. A demonic purple glow suddenly surged around Chu Hen's body, and his deep eyes were filled with a demonic aura. "The place you return to is the location of the first shadow, so what I've been waiting for is now waiting for this moment." Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, purple flames rose from all directions around Lei Jixin. The space was scorched until it was distorted. The demonic flame was like a huge water curtain, directly enveloping Lei Jixin. Shing! Immediately after, the blue sky sword let out a loud and clear sound. Chu Hen's sword momentum covered the sky, and when he brandished his sword, a murderous aura filled the sky. The blue sky sword turned into thousands of sword shadows that pierced through the sky, forming a chaotic sword river, slashing at the huge purple demonic flame fire curtain at full speed. Boom! Bang! The terrifying sword river gathered like rain, and the densely packed sword shadows were like divine rays shuttling through the Milky Way, all striking at one point. Violent turbulence erupted in an instant. The green sword rain and the purple demonic flame intersected and tore at each other, forming a frenzied energy storm. Circles of vigorous air waves and light waves bloomed from within, and the sword circle that sealed the surroundings that triggered the power of thunder and lightning directly exploded because it couldn't withstand it. Clang! Then, tens of thousands of lightning rays bloomed like fireworks. Among the chaotic air waves and light patterns, Lei Jixin flew out. A layer of luxurious sacred armor that flickered with electric arcs condensed around her body. Her eyes were as cold as frost, full of chilliness. An astonishing bloodline boundary power rose wantonly, like a spirit of thunder and lightning. She wasn't injured at all. Chu Hen's brows furrowed, and his grip on the blue sky sword tightened a little. The combined attack of the solitary burning demonic flame and the single sword flying immortal technique couldn't hurt Lei Jixin at all. This woman was indeed worthy of being the top genius in the Eastern Victory State. However, compared to Chu Hen's shock, Lei Jixin's heart also fluctuated a little. Her opponent was only at the 7th level of the Earth Profound Realm, but not only did he continuously resolve her attacks, he was also able to make such a precise counterattack. He was indeed outstanding. However, even so, Lei Jixin still didn't have any intention of looking highly upon Chu Hen. "Pretty good eyesight, but unfortunately, it's useless in front of my sacred lightning physique." Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, another 2 piercingly cold and hurried sounds of wind breaking quietly attacked. "Humph, you can't escape, little bastard!" A fishy wind surged, and a dark tide covered the sky. Chapter 884. A fishy wind surged and a black tide covered the sky. The battle between Chu Hen and Lei Jixin caused the heavens and earth to change color, and the entire ancient ruins began to shake and tremble. Moreover, the arrival of Honesty Valley's Shao Chuan and Heaven Unified Dynasties Shao Lin caused waves of air to rise, and their momentum was like a raging wave. The majestic true yuan emitted by the four unknowingly caused the peculiar and invisible gravitational force to grow increasingly intense. "Little bastard, you can't escape." Shao Chuan's eyes flickered with a cold light as he extended his palm out of thin air. Accompanied by a piercingly cold and extraordinary pressure, a gorgeous golden membrane of water appeared and sealed Chu Hen within it. In an instant, Chu Hen was like an amber wrapped in rosin, with no way to escape. "It's over." Lei Jixin raised her cold eyes slightly, her indifferent gaze as if she was looking at a dead man. Anyone was able to discern that at this moment, Chu Hen had practically exhausted all his true essence. Since the battle with Shintu Etian began, Chu Hen had always been in a state of extreme exhaustion. Moreover, not to mention now, even if Chu Hen was in his best state, it would still be difficult for him to escape from under the noses of these three people. No matter how talented you are, from today onwards, you will forever be a companion to this dust. Shao Lin's face revealed a sneer. Then, he took out his halberd, pointed it forward, and forcefully thrust it forward, launching an unstoppable charge towards Chu Hen's location. Lei Jixin also moved her wrist, and with a rumble, thousands of lightning runes burst forth from her body. She swung her holy sword upwards, and a pillar of lightning shot out like a rainbow. The powerful attack exuded a thick aura of destruction. Shao Chuan sneered, and together with his clenched fingers, the space within the golden membrane of water that enveloped Chu Hen rapidly distorted and contracted. Go to hell! The seemingly unsolvable three-way attack was simply fatal. However, Chu Hen's gaze was full of mockery as he stared straight at Lei Jixin. It was a gaze that ignored the other party's arrogance, and carried a hint of mockery. Hiss! In the next moment, the three terrifying forces gathered at one point and exploded. There was a heavy and deafening sound, as if a storm had directly appeared under the vault of heaven. The surging and mighty Zhenyuan thunder mark surged into the sky, sweeping out in all directions. The 9 heavens trembled uneasily, and a powerful wave of air swept across the Milky Way, flattening a large portion of the mountains below. The space Chu Hen was in seemed to be attacked by 3 torrents. Countless beams of true yuan shot out, shredding everything in their path, and turning it into a forbidden zone of death. Many buildings in the ancient ruins below collapsed one after another. Only the mysterious altar and the 5 huge stone statues of ferocious ghosts remained standing, as firm as a rock. A gale swept across the world. However, the sinister smile on Bei Chuan's face suddenly froze, replaced by a layer of gloomy frost. What? The Heaven Dynasty's Shao Lin also frowned and looked around in disbelief. Dazzling rays of light intertwined in the swirling cyclone in the sky. The figure that was clearly in the death prison had actually vanished into thin air before their eyes. How was this possible? Where did he go? Shao Lin stared at Bei Chuan with a puzzled expression. How would I know? Bei Chuan was also infuriated. The moment he came out, Chu Hen's aura had already completely disappeared. The other party had successfully escaped from under the 3 of their eyes. When they returned, how would they explain this to Shintu Etian? Lei Jixin's cold eyes surged with a trace of coldness. Then, she slightly nodded and coldly spat out a few words. Space teleportation type treasure. Space teleportation? Shao Lin and Bei Chuan couldn't help but look at each other. They were similarly moved. For example, the revolving myriad beasts diagram and the sky immortal talisman were all space teleportation type treasures. However, these treasures were extremely rare. A mere Mount Kuan Lu couldn't possibly take out so many life-saving treasures for its disciples. This immediately made Shao Lin and Shao Chuan suspicious. Who exactly is this person? Mount Kuan-Lu can't take out so many defensive treasures. Bei Chuan's eyes were cold as he said in a low voice. Lei Jixin caressed her sword and said in a proud tone, "He was just lucky and picked up a few strange things somewhere. It's not a big deal." It seemed that in Lei Jixin's eyes, it wasn't a big deal that Chu Hen had coincidentally escaped. Although Chu Hen's performance today was indeed stunning, it wasn't enough to make someone as arrogant as Lei Jixin look at him in a higher light. To her, it was merely to let the immortal talisman spirit tree stay in Chu Hen's hands for a few more days. As expected, she was a woman with aspirations higher than the heavens. Xiao Lin sighed inwardly. It wasn't strange for the Thunder Saint Palace to look down on others. However, the rise of Mount Kuan-Lu was a hidden threat to the Heaven Unified Dynasty, which was ranked at the bottom of the 10 peak powers. I think that stinking brat only had one chance to use space teleportation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until we forced him into a corner before escaping. Perhaps he hasn't gone far. If we split up and give chase, we'll definitely have a chance to eliminate him. After that, we'll quickly, Xiao Lin said in a gloomy voice. Honesty Valley's Bei Chuan immediately agreed. That's right, he definitely can't have gone far. However, Lei Jixin only smiled faintly and didn't say anything else. She flew away on her own. The other party's arrogant attitude displeased Xiao Chuan and Xiao Lin, especially the former. No matter what, he was still an elder of Honesty Valley, a top-notch expert in the sky-profound realm. It was really embarrassing for him to be ignored by a younger generation member like that. However, due to the majesty of the Thunder Saint Palace, Bei Chuan could only blow his beard and stare helplessly. What a cold and arrogant woman! Xiao Lin's gaze swept over Lei Jixin's back with a trace of evilness. A woman like her had such high standards. It would probably be difficult to find a man in the victorious Eastern state who could conquer her. After a brief moment of contemplation, Xiao Lin immediately looked towards Bei Chuan. "Elder Bei, why don't you and I search around and see if we can find that bastard brat? Let's go." Soon, the three of them left the area. In the blink of an eye, the ancient ruins returned to peace. Among the collapsed strange buildings, only the altar covered with mysterious runes and secret scrolls stood tall on the ground behind the altar. The 5 huge and majestic stone statues of evil spirits were like gods guarding the ruins. At this moment, the dark red runes on the altar squirmed like dried blood, and the bronze bell eyes of the largest stone statue in the center seemed to flash with a faint bloody light. Buzz buzz. The strange gravitational rhythm between heaven and earth was like a magnetic field that gradually stabilized, but very quickly, everything returned to normal and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 885. Bang, bang, bang. The inertia of the collision caused Chu Hen to be like a sandbag that had been swept into a tornado. The continuous collisions caused his vision to dim, and he was seeing stars. What happened? Where am I? Boom! Bang! Sparks flew and light rained down. Chu Hen only felt that his body was completely out of his control. An extremely strong gravitational force was aimlessly dragging him. Chu Hen was like a headless fly, randomly bumping into rocks one after another. He simply couldn't help but complain endlessly. Bang! Along with the last heavy muffled sound, Chu Hen finally stopped moving and solidly smashed onto the ground. His entire body was sore, his head was dizzy, and he could not even climb up. At least I didn't die. Chu Hen, who was lying on the ground, felt relieved. He closed his eyes, and there was almost no muscle or bone in his body that didn't hurt. Crack! Then, a clear sound came from Chu Hen's right palm. A third crack quietly appeared on the exquisite jade pendant in his hand. When the third crack appeared, the jade pendant that was originally lingering with a soft light also became dim. Crack! Like broken glass, the whole jade pendant turned into small pieces. Did he succeed and retreat? Chu Hen slowly opened his eyes and struggled to lift his hand in front of him. Looking at the jade pendant that was broken into dozens of pieces, he more or less sighed. This jade pendant was the treasure given to him by the mysterious woman who took Luo Mengshang away on the first day when he arrived at Mount Kunli. It helped him escape from death 3 times in total. The first time was when he encountered Tuoba Sha outside Kongyu City and was chased by the guards of the Light Saint clan. Moreover, on the first day of entering the ancient Desolation Heaven Realm, he had used up his second chance to lure the evil beast of death summoned by the blood-refining sect to the pool where the ghost octopus was hidden, causing the 2 beasts to fight each other. Just now was the 3rd time. He was grateful to this jade pendant for 3 critical moments of life and death. Similarly, it also meant that he had used up the 3 chances to save his life. Who? Chu Hen let out a long sigh. Fatigue washed over him. Just as he was about to calm down and rest, the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow's grave voice rang in his ears. It seems like our current situation isn't very optimistic. Oh? Upon hearing this, Chu Hen's sleepiness instantly disappeared. He sat up abruptly and asked in confusion, "What's not optimistic?" "Take a look at where you are first," the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird said. Where was this? Could it be that he was teleported out of the ancient, desolate heaven domain? Looking around, Chu Hen's brows quickly furrowed. What appeared in front of him was a desolate and dim world. The sky above was hazy, and numerous rocks of various sizes floated there. It was boundless like the vast universe, the chaotic universe that hadn't been divided. This is? Chu Hen was dumbfounded. He saw that many of the rocks floating in the air had been smashed into pieces, and many stones were scattered on the ground. It was obvious that he had randomly smashed into those floating rocks. The sky above was like a chaotic universe, and the ground was also barren. Chu Hen stood up in a daze and scanned his surroundings. It was like a different world from where he was just now. Where are we? Chu Hen couldn't help but ask. After a brief silence, the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird asked, "Did you feel anything strange when you used the jade pendant to transfer space?" Strange? Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he fell into deep thought. He remembered that the previous 2 times he used the jade pendant, the impact was not as intense as this time. This time, it felt like an invisible force was forcefully pulling him over. Wait. Chu Hen raised his eyes and clenched his fist. "I'm not too sure. When I used the spatial transfer just now, I seemed to see a red stream of light. It didn't appear the previous 2 times. Chu Hen's answer caused the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird to fall silent for a long time. "What's going on? Explain clearly." Chu Hen was a little anxious. "Feel how much of your power has been suppressed," the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird said in a deep voice. With some doubts, Chu Hen immediately mobilized the true inner force in his body and released it. Waves of air spread out and lifted the gravel and dust on the ground. "Less than 80%. Chu Hen shook his head and answered. Compared to other places, he could only use less than 80% of his power here. Strange, surprised, and even more suspicious, you can still use 80% of your power. The sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird muttered to itself as if it was thinking. "Tell me more clearly. Where are we? Stuttering doesn't seem like your style." "I'm not sure yet. Let's go somewhere else first." "Alright. Just don't tell me that we've already left the ancient Desolation Heaven Realm." From the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Bird's serious tone, Chu Hen seemed to have sensed something. However, he did not ask. Instead, he identified the direction and found that there was a relatively wide road ahead. Gray weeds and plants grew on both sides of the road. It was gray and gave off an indescribably strange aura. Keeping his guard up, Chu Hen took elixirs to recover the energy that he had consumed without restraint as he walked along the main road. Gray smoke lingered in the distance. It was dead silent everywhere. He could only hear his own footstep. Suddenly, a skeleton appeared dozens of meters in front of him. Chu Hen frowned as he became more alert. When he walked closer, he saw that the skeleton had been smashed to pieces. However, he could vaguely tell that it was a human skeleton. A human skeleton had appeared here. Chu Hen's mind quietly became a bit heavier. As he walked forward, he saw a few more incomplete skeletons. Soon after, a large square that exuded an ancient aura appeared in front of them. The stone tiles on the ground were full of holes and holes. A few ancient pillars stood on both sides of the square. The square was covered in dust and impurities due to the passage of time. A few dark blue phosphorescent flames danced like ghosts. The ground of the square was littered with dried skeletons. These skeletons had long turned black, and the clothes on their bodies were almost completely corroded. It was obvious that these skeletons were ancient. Ta-ta-ta, when he reached the stone steps of the square, the sound was clear to his ears. Chu Hen tried his best to sense the aura around him, trying to find other living creatures. However, it seemed that he was the only one here. Soon, Chu Hen arrived at the center of the square. In front of them was an even more magnificent platform. In the middle of the platform stood a row of giant stone pillars that were over 100 meters tall. From afar, the row of stone pillars looked like an iron gate that was used to imprison ferocious beasts. And behind the rows of stone pillars, buzz. Hua! In a split second, Chu Hen's pupils violently shrunk. His heart felt as if it was struck by a heavy hammer. Shock covered his entire face and a chill ran down his spine. The indescribable palpitation caused his legs to feel as if they were filled with lead, unable to move. Chapter 886. This is, a cold wind suddenly rose and an ice-cold chill followed along his back. Chu Hen's pupils violently shrank and the hairs on his entire body couldn't help but stand up. What Chu Hen saw was a pair of eye sockets that were like deep black holes. The owner of this pair of eye sockets was an incomparably huge skeleton. The skeleton's spine was very long, and the segments were distinct, like a mountain ridge. The huge white skull was ferocious and terrifying, and its wide jaws were filled with sharp teeth. Although it was just a skeleton, for some reason, when Chu Hen stood in front of it, he felt like he was facing a peerless monster that could destroy heaven and earth. Although the old sword was broken, it still had its edge. The body of the fiend god still had its might. Rows of towering stone pillars stood side by side, like a huge iron gate. Behind the iron gate was a huge skeleton that exuded an inextinguishable deterrence. Under the dusky sky, the ancient Tao platform on the square had experienced the vicissitudes of life, and its phosphorescence rose. At this moment, Chu Hen seemed especially small, as if he had accidentally entered a forbidden land of demon sealing that had been sealed for tens of thousands of years. Just what is this place? No matter how hard Chu Hen tried to suppress his emotions, he still could not calm his restlessness. He looked at the skeletons scattered around the square, and his mind could not help but picture the desperation and struggle of those people at the last moment. Looks like it can't be wrong. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's heavy voice sounded. We are currently in the 5 saints sealing technique rumble. In an instant, Chu Hen felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his heart was in turmoil. Although he had sensed it all along, he could not help but feel a wave of fear when he heard it confirm it. Then what is it? Dragon bones! Dragon bones! Hiss! These 2 simple words were especially piercing to the ear, and Chu Hen could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Dragons were ancient and peerless divine beasts that only existed in legends. People had only heard of them, but had never seen them with their own eyes. The ancients said that dragons were divine auspices, but they could also be evil. They could call the wind and summon the rain, overturn rivers and fill the seas. They were above billions of demon beasts, and possessed shocking divine strength. Everyone in the world was in awe of the true dragon. But now, a bona fide dragon skeleton was right in front of Chu Hen. He felt like he was dreaming. Standing under the dragon bones, Chu Hen felt like he was being stared at by a terrifying giant beast. The invisible pressure made him feel even more burdened. The other party had been dead for at least a few thousand years, yet it still had such a powerful remnant power. It was hard to imagine what kind of terrifying existence this giant dragon was when it was alive. Apart from the shock, there was also an endless amount of solemnity and confusion. 5 sacred seals. The land of the buried dragon. Just what kind of world-shocking almighty being could seal and bury this peerless vicious dragon here? Similarly, what should he do next? Why are we here? Chu Hen calmed down and asked in a deep voice. You said that when you used the jade pendant to teleport, there was a red light. Yes. That's where the problem lies. We were forcefully dragged in by the 5 saints sealing technique. What? The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He was even more confused. Why? There were clearly 4 people just now, and Bei Chuan, Lei Jixin, and Xiao Lin were all at a higher realm than him. Why were they all fine? Could it be because he used the jade pendant to teleport? The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow did not directly answer Chu Hen's question. Instead, it explained in detail. This 5 saints sealing technique is very old. Many of the runes have been damaged, causing the path of the seal's power to change. Therefore, there is a very chaotic magnetic field here. The 5 saints sealing technique was very powerful. The power of the seal was not stable, and it was enough to spread to the entire area. Once someone came here and released their true origin energy, the power in their body would form a strange resonance with the chaotic magnetic field here. This was also why Chu Hen had previously discovered that the strength of the invisible space rhythm in this ancient ruin was related to the operation of his true origin energy. The more true origin energy released, the stronger the space rhythm. The main reason was the existence of the 5 saints sealing technique. When the power of the outside world reaches a certain limit, it will accidentally trigger the powerful activation of the 5 saints sealing technique. It's not surprising that you would appear here. Of course, there's another situation. That is, the teleportation jade pendant randomly chose to send you here. After listening to the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's explanation, 2 words immediately appeared in Chu Hen's mind. Fraud. It was definitely a fraud. Regardless of the situation, Chu Hen had the urge to curse out loud. The ancient desolate heaven territory was really an unexpected place. Apart from the gold that was scattered all over the place, there were also traps that people would randomly step into. Chu Hen's gaze swept across the surroundings of the ancient square again. The skeletons lying on the ground were most likely people who had unintentionally entered this place. Would he become one of them? Chu Hen's long experience of life and death allowed him to regain his composure very quickly. What should I do now? Since the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow had such an understanding of the 5 saints sealing technique, he believed it was not the end yet. At this moment, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow knew that he could not let Chu Hen deal with this alone. He immediately replied, "Just as I said earlier, the 5 saints sealing technique has existed for so many years. I believe there's not much energy left to support its operation. There must be a weak spot. If we can find that spot and break it, we'll be able to escape." There was indeed a way. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. "You can find that spot? I don't have time to waste here." He still did not know the situation at Mount Kunliu and the mysterious ice sect. If he did not meet up with them in time and they came looking for him, who knew what kind of trouble would ensue? Chu Hen just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. "Let's go up and have a look," the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow replied. Chu Hen raised his head and looked at the chaotic void where countless rocks of various sizes were suspended. It was boundless and mysterious, like many ferocious beasts in deep sleep. After letting out a deep breath, Chu Hen's figure immediately moved. He turned into a ray of light and soared into the vast, suspended rock. This independent sealed area was much vaster than Chu Hen had imagined. The rocks were suspended in the air like meteorites in the universe. Chu Hen wandered aimlessly and searched wantonly. He was like a small boat among thousands of islands, not knowing where to start. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chu Hen flashed back and forth like the wind. However, he could not find anything different even after passing through tens of thousands of suspended rocks. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours had passed. Chu Hen still did not find anything. Just as he was about to return to the ground to rest for a while, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's surprised voice was heard. Above left, about 200 meters, found it. Chu Hen's heart was filled with joy. He immediately drew an afterimage and flashed to the left, only to see a relatively large suspended rock floating there. Its width was about 50 to 60 meters, and it looked like a small island unlike other rocks. This rock was not only larger in size, but its surface was also very flat. Whoosh! A layer of light ripples spread out, and Chu Hen impatiently landed on top of the huge rock. The first thing that came into view was a circular arched door standing in the center of the huge rock. The arched door did not have a door panel, nor did it have a front or back. It just stood there alone, looking very discordant. What was equally mysterious was that there was a layer of red light floating in the middle of the arched door. The light was like a veil, like a falling curtain, blocking the front and back of the arched door. However, there were a few skeletons lying on the ground 3 to 4 meters away from the arched door. Chapter 887. Tens of thousands of rocks hung in the air like meteorites in the vast starry sky. It was also like the boundless vast sea island. Chu Hen stood on a flat boulder that was about 40 to 50 meters wide. He stared solemnly at the circular arched door erected in the middle of the boulder. The arched door had no front or back, only a frame. A layer of solidified red light screen floated inside the frame. It was mysterious and unfathomable, like a gate of time that could shuttle through space. As he stared at the light screen, Chu Hen could not help but feel as though he was separated from the outside world by a wall. This was the way out. However, apart from the arched door, there were also a few skeletons lying in front of Chu Hen. After being sealed for so long, these skeletons were as rotten wood. Beside one of the skeletons were 2 pieces of broken sword. The thick layer of dust covered the sharpness of the swords, and at the same time, destroyed their hopes of escaping. Before this, someone had already found this place. It was impossible to determine what level these people were when they were alive. However, it was obvious that they had all failed. A hint of heaviness surged between Chu Hen's brows as he slowly walked toward the arched door. From a close distance, he could see that the layer of red light screen was solidified like a thick layer of ice crystals. From time to time, gorgeous ancient talisman inscriptions would flash on its surface. Chu Hen gently touched the surface of the light screen with the tip of his finger. In the next instant, a dense red light burst out, and a powerful force directly bounced Chu Hen's finger back. What a powerful energy density! Chu Hen said with a frown. Although it has existed for thousands of years, it's still the 5 saint sealing art. Even the weakest spot isn't that easy to break, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said in a deep voice. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said in a deep voice. Chu Hen clenched his fists as determination flashed in his eyes. Who cares about the 5 saint sealing art? I'm going to break out of here no matter what. Buzz, in an instant, his true origin's violet palace opened, and surging true origin energy surged out like a surging tide. Chu Hen's palm condensed, and an unending stream of 7 stars power quickly gathered. Waves of air swirled and space trembled. An extremely dense energy sphere quickly formed. Merak kill. Buzz! Chu Hen seemed to be in control of the stars as he swept up a majestic force capable of shattering mountains and rivers. His palm faced forward and directly smashed towards the arched door. Hiss! A loud and heavy sound surged and exploded in front of Chu Hen. Along with a circle of vigorous air waves that rapidly leaked out, the energy ball in the center of his palm was like a snowball striking against a steel plate. It was incomparably fragile, and was instantly shattered into pieces. What? Chu Hen's eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with astonishment. He withdrew his arm, only to see that the red light barrier was not damaged in the slightest. It only trembled slightly, and there were no other changes. Not even the slightest trace remained. This, immediately after, the aura within Chu Hen's body soared once again. His pair of pitch-black eyes immediately turned a demonic purple. At the same time, a dense demonic black aura burst forth. The power of the demon eye and the power of chaos were quietly released. Buzz, buzz, two strong light pillars, one black and one purple, intertwined and soared into the sky, like two coiling pythons. Then, Chu Hen punched again, and the heavy fist surging with two rays of light smashed firmly on the red light barrier. Boom! A turbulence that was several times stronger than before swept through the void. Tens of thousands of lightning powers gathered at one point and exploded. The terrifying power poured out in all directions. The boulder under Chu Hen's feet immediately split open. Circles and circles of ripples spread out on the light screen. The light barrier shook violently, but in less than 5 seconds, it returned to calmness. A blow. An absolute blow. Chu Hen's all-out blow only made the arched door shake a few times, and this was the weakest point of the 5 Saints' seal. In an instant, an inexplicable fire rose in his heart. The aroused desire to win also made Chu Hen unwilling to admit defeat like this. "I don't believe that I can't smash this broken door of yours today, Hua." The aura of the 7th level of the Earth Profound Realm erupted without reservation. Chu Hen flew back 100 meters, and a pair of demonic purple eyes shot out ice-cold demonic flames. Demonic flame, burial. One sword flying immortal technique. Star Soul quadruple critical strike. It was earth-shattering and the sky shook. The ferocious might of the purple flame azure dragon was like a majestic sword pillar that was filled with divine radiance. The 7 star souls and the 4 star soul pearls were gathered together for a powerful attack again and again. The violent and terrifying destructive power continuously smashed on the arched door. Bang! Boom! The aftermath of the huge power swept across the sky, and the rocks floating in the void were swept and crushed into pieces. In addition to all kinds of powerful martial skills, even Reiki energy was used. True origin and rune techniques were combined with the great Tao divine formation, and the spirit and martial combination attack. Chaotic waves of air covered the sky and earth. Under the attack of such a powerful storm, the huge rock had already been completely turned into powder. However, the round red arched door still floated in place like a rock, mysterious and dazzling, like the evil eye of a ferocious beast in the endless galaxy. The ancient inscription glowed, as if it was mocking Chu Hen. The wantonly squandering caused the true origin in Chu Hen's body to immediately run out. He landed on another hanging rock in the back area and knelt on one knee. He held the blue sky sword in one hand, and the tip of the sword was propped on the ground. His face was pale, and he constantly panted. There was no other way. "You still plan to hide inside and watch the show?" Chu Hen's voice carried a trace of dissatisfaction. From the beginning to the end, the sacred wing heavenly flame bird had no intention of helping. The other party watched helplessly as it did nothing, and was really angry. "Sorry?" After a short silence, the sacred wing heavenly flame bird lightly spat out 2 words. Chu Hen frowned slightly. According to the other party's personality, it would never say these 2 words. Although they were in a cooperative relationship, the sacred wing heavenly flame bird had always had the upper hand. After all, Chu Hen could not do anything to it. However, after spending so much time together, they definitely understood each other, even though they could not be said to be on good terms. Suddenly, Chu Hen remembered something that the sacred wing heavenly flame bird had asked him before. "How much of your strength is suppressed?" Chu Hen's answer was that he could only reach about 80% of his usual strength here. It seemed like a casual question, but now that he thought about it, there seemed to be another layer of meaning. "How much of your strength is suppressed?" Chu Hen asked in return. You're getting smarter. Thank you for the compliment, Chu Hen said unhappily. About 80%, the sacred wing heavenly flame bird replied. Isn't that the same as me? Then it laughed helplessly. I'm suppressed by 80%. What? Suppressed by 80%? Didn't this mean that the other party could only use 20% of its strength here? Chu Hen was puzzled. Why is there such a huge difference? That's because this 5 saints sealing technique wasn't set up for you humans. The 5 saints seal was not targeted at humans? With a start, Chu Hen subconsciously swept his gaze towards the ancient plaza below. It was a grand and majestic place. In the center of the ancient and vicissitudes of life, the huge dragon skeleton was still emitting an intimidating aura that had yet to recede, the 5 saints sacrificial altar, the land of the buried dragon. This was a powerful seal that had been specially set up to kill that dragon. As for the sacred wing heavenly flame bird, it was also a demonic beast, but the pressure it had to withstand far exceeded the limit it had on Chu Hen. I see. After coming to a realization, Chu Hen shook his head helplessly and said, Looks like I should be the one apologizing. This simple sentence caused the other party to fall silent again. Chu Hen's answer was clearly out of the sacred wing heavenly flame bird's expectations. Thank you. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled into a relieved smile when he heard the sudden thank you. He knew very well what the other party meant. After all, trust was something that depended on the specific situation most of the time. What should he do next? Chu Hen fell into deep thought. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird could not help. The situation was much more serious than he had imagined. I'm afraid we won't be able to break this seal in a short period of time. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird knew the 5 saints seal very well. Perhaps they could only wait until the seal's power gradually weakened before the two of them worked together to break it. However, no one could guarantee how long they would have to wait. However, following that, determination flashed in Chu Hen's eyes.